Chapter 3703. In the past, he had always threatened her. Ning Shu continued reading. The magic teacher walked into the classroom and announced that in 3 days, the teachers would be taking the students out to practice and use the magic they had learned. This was basic training. The magic teacher had people prepare some daily necessities. They would be traveling for a few days. Afterward, the teacher began to explain how to cast magic. There was a process to casting magic. What magicians had to do was to reduce the casting time. Also, magicians couldn't engage in close combat. Once they did, it would be troublesome. After class, Mia came over with a large bunch of potions. She walked into the classroom and said to Wakel and the other princes, "I heard that you all have homework to do, so I'm here to give you potions. This is a new potion that I've developed. The teacher said that it's good for recovery." Crown Prince Iraq had Wakel accept the potions. He asked Mia gently, "You're doing well. You can even make potions now. Is there anyone bullying you?" Mia shook her head. "No, no one bullied me." Ning Shu was speechless. Was he talking about her? He really wanted to smash these people's heads and accuse them of bullying her. Otherwise, he would have to bear this accusation for nothing. The burly Wakel glanced at Ning Shu's back and said, "If anyone bullies you, let me know." Mia thanked him. Ning Shu stood up from her seat and walked straight to Wakel. She looked down at him condescendingly. "Are you saying that I bullied my cousin?" "I didn't say that. You admitted it yourself." Ning Shu said coldly, "I'm guilty." "Aren't you implying something?" "I want to challenge you. The reason is that you insulted my character. I challenge you with the dignity of a magician." Wakel sneered. "You're challenging me?" A weak magician wanted to challenge him. What a joke. Magicians were powerful, but their bodies were weak. He was a warrior. He could kill his opponent before they could even cast magic. Wakel sneered. "I don't bully the weak." Ning Shu rolled his eyes and said sarcastically, "You don't bully the weak, but you make yourself sound so righteous. You're framing me. Which eye of yours saw me bullying my cousin? You're taking it for granted that I bullied Mia. You bullied me and slandered me. Why can't I challenge you?" Ning Shu felt that it was necessary to punish the chicken to warn the monkey. Otherwise, people would dare to splash dirty things on her in the future. The next time you spout nonsense, you have to think about the consequences. Mia was afraid that her cousin and Wakel would really start fighting, so she hurriedly tried to stop them. "Wakel, my cousin really didn't bully me. Don't fight." "Cousin, you can't beat Wakel. Don't fight." Ning Shu pushed Mia away and said to her, "If you don't want me to be burdened with rumors, then don't stop me." Mia immediately fell silent, but she looked worriedly at Ning Shu and Wakel. Wakel raised an eyebrow, and the people around him began to get excited, urging Wakel to challenge Ning Shu. Crown Prince Iraq nodded to Wakel, who immediately stood up. His tall body gave off an oppressive aura. Ning Shu sneered. "As you wish. Let's go to the dueling arena," Wakel said. Ning Shu turned and walked towards the dueling arena, followed by many people. The dueling arena quickly caused a commotion, and everyone headed towards the arena. Furthermore, they were two of the more famous people in the school. Wakel was very popular in the school, especially among the girls. Hearing that someone was going to challenge Wakel, they all went to cheer him on. Some were just there to watch the show. Mia also went with them, her face filled with worry. Crown Prince Iraq said, "Don't worry, Wakel will show mercy. He won't harm your cousin's life." Mia was still very worried. "If something happens to my cousin, Auntie will be very worried." "Wakel knows," the Crown Prince said, but then he asked, "Your cousin really didn't bully you?" "No. She's a cold person, but she didn't bully me." Rita was a bit disappointed. "What do you mean she didn't bully you?" You're just an orphan living under someone else's roof. He'll definitely look down on you. This girl's heart was really big. Rita looked at the two people in the dueling arena and pursed her lips. Wakel was very powerful. Although Ariel was a magician, there was still a time gap between her spells. She would be beaten up badly in close combat. Rita had been treated like that by Ariel before, so she was still a bit angry. She really wanted Ariel to make a fool of herself to vent her anger. Wakel looked at the skinny and weak Ning Shu and clenched his fists. He didn't even draw the great sword on his back. Clearly, he didn't think he needed it. Ning Shu stretched his neck, making cracking sounds as he warmed up. Wakel circulated his chi and threw a punch at Ning Shu. Ning Shu didn't move, as if he had been scared silly. Wakel didn't show any mercy. He quickly rushed in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu splashed a basin of water on Wakel's face. Then, taking advantage of Wakel's momentary daze, he threw a punch at Wakel's abdomen. Wakel retreated a few steps and steadied himself. His abdomen was a bit uncomfortable. Wakel frowned and tried to close in again. The pain in his abdomen made Wakel angry. He became much more cautious and calmed down. Ning Shu still didn't move. This time, he released a water arrow. Wakel dodged it and looked at it with contempt. It took him so long to release one water arrow. Swatting a mosquito. Wakel quickly arrived in front of Ning Shu. Oh no! The onlookers shook their heads. A magician in close combat was going to be crippled. Ning Shu tilted his head and looked at Wakel. He gathered a large number of water arrows and shot them at Wakel. Seeing so many water arrows, Wakel had no choice but to dodge. Ning Shu took advantage of Wakel's dodging to raise his foot and kick Wakel's abdomen. His other foot kicked Wakel's shoulder, causing Wakel to stagger. It took him a lot of effort to stabilize himself. Ning Shu clenched his fists. Since you're so tall and strong, I'll beat you in the area you're most proud of. Ning Shu pounced on Wakel and punched him in the eye, bruising it. Wakel was in so much pain that he almost cried. He couldn't help but cover his eyes. He felt as if his eyeballs were about to pop out. Ning Shu didn't give Wakel a chance to retaliate. He clenched his fist and smashed it at Wakel's face. Since Wakel had underestimated him, Ning Shu wanted to teach him a lesson. Wakel's body was weak and had no self-defense skills. His reaction speed was also very slow. To watch the new chapter, please go to mobile address. To watch the new chapter, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3704. If Wakel really went all out, her body wouldn't be able to handle it. Ning Shu felt that she had to train her body. Magicians were too weak. She had to rely on others to protect her. If she could train her body, she could take care of herself and rely on herself to save herself. After being punched several times in a row, Wakel suddenly felt dizzy. He was a little dazed from all the punches. However, Wakel was still a battle chi cultivator. He immediately drew his sword from his back. Seeing this, Ning Shu immediately retreated and raised his hand. I admit defeat. Everyone was speechless. Wakel raised his sword and blinked. His eyes hurt so much that he couldn't help but blink. In a duel like this, if one side admitted defeat, the duel would be over. It was supposed to be a friendly duel, not a fight to the death. So, Ning Shu admitted defeat. The duel was over. Ning Shu shrugged. You're strong. I can't beat you. As expected of a famous person in the school. After Ning Shu finished speaking, she turned around and walked away, leaving behind the stunned crowd. Wakel gripped his sword, his eyes turning red with anger. She had beaten him up, and he had immediately admitted defeat after beating him up. Wakel was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. What kind of woman was this? The onlookers watched as the duel ended so abruptly. She admitted defeat so easily. She had no backbone at all. Looking at Wakel's bruised face, it seemed that Wakel was the one who lost. Damn, this woman was really ruthless. Wakel stood in place, not knowing whether to leave or not. It was extremely awkward. Seeing the bruises on Wakel's face, Mia took out some medicine and prepared to give it to him. Wakel reacted first. He sheathed his sword and pretended to be calm as he walked over to Crown Prince. Crown Prince held back his laughter and patted Wakel's shoulder. It wasn't that he didn't care about brotherhood, but that Wakel's panda eyes were really funny. Mia gave the medicine to Wakel. It would relieve some of the pain and prevent his face from being bruised. Mia said to Wakel, "I apologize on behalf of my cousin." Wacker waved his hand. "You are you, and your cousin is your cousin. You don't need to apologize for your cousin." But my cousin was ruthless. This face was really unbearable to look at. Even Mia could not bear to look at it. Wakel now understood that he had been tricked. Seeing Mia's uneasy expression, he said, "This has nothing to do with you. I'm dueling her." Wakel was tired of explaining and didn't feel like talking anymore. He drank the potion in one gulp, and the pain eased a little. Soon after, many girls came over to compliment Wakel, making him feel very tired. After dealing with them with great difficulty, he returned to the classroom and glanced at Ning Shu, who was reading. Wacker was annoyed that she was still in the mood to read. He tried to use his gaze to get the woman in front of him to notice. Ning Shu was very pleased. At least he had managed to vent his anger. The next time he challenged Wacker, Wacker probably wouldn't fall for it so easily. He should train his body first before challenging Wacker. He would definitely be able to beat Wacker like a punching bag. What a pity, what a pity. Ning Shu shook his head. Next time, he would find a way to openly beat Wakel up. Ning Shu glanced at the Crown Prince. Next time, he would find a way to beat him up. After school, Ning Shu boarded the carriage, and Mia followed. Along the way, her gaze would occasionally drift towards Ning Shu. Ning Shu couldn't be bothered to pay attention to her, but Mia was someone who couldn't hold back her words. "Cousin." Ning Shu grunted and looked at her. Mia was speechless. She had wanted to say something, but now she really couldn't say anything. Ning Shu roughly knew what Mia wanted to say. It was probably about how she had been so ruthless. She just wanted to touch Wakel. Couldn't she touch him? Seeing that Mia was tactful enough to not say anything, Ning Shu didn't say anything either. Mia felt uneasy all over. She couldn't sit still. This feeling came from her cousin sitting opposite her. Her cousin was getting harder and harder to get along with. She was afraid. After returning home, Ning Shu asked the servants to prepare some dry rations and clothes for the trip. Mia was also preparing. Ning Shu was a little surprised. "You're going too?" She was a pharmacist. She didn't have magic or battle energy. What was she going to do? It wasn't like she was going for an outing. Ning Shu asked. Mia said, "Our pharmacist class will also send someone. My teacher asked me to go." Ning Shu grunted and didn't say anything else. Mia was speechless. Cousin is so cold. Ning Shu returned to his room and began to cultivate magic. At the same time, he also began to train his body. At the very least, he had to familiarize himself with the combat techniques. Ning Shu thought about it. He still had to cultivate an ultimate martial art. It could improve his physique, and it didn't conflict with absorbing spiritual energy and magical elements. Ning Shu sat cross-legged and began to cultivate the ultimate martial art. Spiritual energy flowed into his body. By the time dawn came, there was already a lot of spiritual energy in his dantian. His body also felt much more relaxed. After freshening up, Ning Shu went downstairs and saw Mia busily serving breakfast to the table when she came down. Ning Shu said, "Cousin, why are you stealing the servants' work again? You're stealing their work and leaving them with no work to do. This will make them very uneasy. Do you understand?" Mia immediately looked uneasy. I'm sorry. Ning Shu pulled out a chair and sat down. Be at ease and be a young lady. Don't always think about stealing the servants' work. If you finish the servants' work, you won't need them anymore. Then you can only ask them to leave the Earl's residence. When the servants in the hall heard this, they all looked scared. They quickly took the bread from Mia's hand. "Miss Mia, we're about to eat. Please sit down." Mia was pushed to sit in the chair. Facing Ning Shu, she felt uneasy again. This uncomfortable feeling lasted from the beginning of the meal to the end of the journey to school. Mia's heart was bitter. She was really a little afraid of her cousin. Facing her cousin, she felt like she couldn't breathe. Mia sat with her back straight like an obedient primary school student. When Ning Shu alighted from the carriage, she followed him and obediently followed behind Ning Shu. Ning Shu stopped in his tracks. Mia, who was behind him, bumped into Ning Shu's back. Ning Shu turned around and looked at her. "You're not going to your classroom?" Only then did Mia react. "Oh, right. I'm going to my classroom." Ning Shu watched as Mia ran away. What's wrong with her? As soon as Ning Shu arrived at the classroom, he was met with all kinds of gazes. Ning Shu glanced at Weikel. After a night, the bruises on his face were even more obvious. Ning Shu laughed in his heart. He placed his bag on the table. It was filled with dry food, clothes, and money. To view the new chapter of Zoe, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3705. Being stared at by her classmate, Ning Shu calmly sat down. She turned around and looked at her classmate who had been staring at her. She asked, "Why are you looking at me? You're looking at me with such a longing expression. Do you want to duel with me?" His desk mate hurriedly shook his head. "No, I'm just curious. Why didn't Weikel come looking for trouble when he was beaten black and blue by you?" Weikel had never been beaten up like that before, let alone in the face. How could he not do anything about such an embarrassing thing? In reality, everyone was just watching the show, waiting for Weikel to make a move. Ning Shu snorted. "My duel with Weikel was a fair and just duel in the arena. Weikel is such an upright and righteous person. Why would he seek revenge in private? Even if he wanted to take revenge, he would have fought me in a duel. He would have taken his revenge in a fair, just, and public way." "Deskmate, what you said makes sense. I have no rebuttal. If Weikel wanted revenge in private, that would be petty. Weikel was a very proud person. He probably wouldn't do that. No wonder Avril was so fearless. Thinking about it carefully, there was nothing to be afraid of. Avril's father was also a powerful magician." Ning Shu's deskmate thought for a while and felt that this cold and arrogant Avril was quite cunning, but she was also very brave. Seeing the bag on Ning Shu's table, she asked, "Why did you bring so many things?" "Ning Shu, I like to eat snacks." She fried the jerky and sprinkled some spices on it. Whenever she had nothing to do, she would chew on it happily. "Just bring some money and water." "It's a burden to bring so many things," his classmate said. Probably because he was afraid of Weikel, he didn't say anything else to Ning Shu. Weikel kept staring at Ning Shu, treating Ning Shu as if nothing had happened. He was in a very bad mood. Weikel was very unhappy that he didn't feel any guilt after hitting her. He should have at least acted a little uneasy. That would make him feel like he was an insignificant person. The magician told his classmates to gather downstairs and get ready to go. Ning Shu slung his bag over his shoulder and went downstairs. A pair of eyes followed him like a shadow. Ning Shu didn't need to turn around to know who it was. Even Ning Shu wanted to challenge Weikel. Weikel felt wronged. There were a lot of students on this trip. Some of them knew magic, some of them knew fighting aura, and some of them were pharmacists. Mia and Rita arrived soon after. Mia was carrying bags of various sizes, and it seemed like they were filled with potions. Rita curled her lips when she saw Ning Shu. Ning Shu shot her a look of disdain without hesitation, successfully causing Rita's expression to darken. Ning Shu called out, "Cousin." Ning Shu replied, "Cousin." Rita tugged at Mia's sleeve. "Why are you being so nice to him?" "Mia." Not long after, 5 teachers came over. There were 3 males and 2 females, 3 magic teachers and 2 battle chi teachers. They were all the more powerful teachers in the school and had to protect the safety of the students. The teachers told the students to take note of certain things, such as not leaving the group alone, bringing their own clothes, and taking care of their money. After speaking, a male teacher summoned a huge ice eagle. It was white all over and looked like a moving ice sculpture. It exuded a cold aura and its eyes were sharp. This was a summoned beast. Usually, warriors who cultivated fighting aura would sign a contract with some magical beasts. For example, a dragon knight. Of course, how could a destructive magical beast like a dragon sign a contract with a human and be controlled by a human? The moment the ice eagle appeared, the students exclaimed. It was really too cool. It was both awe-inspiring and frightening. When it flapped its wings, it gave off a cold aura. "Everyone, get on Cyrus's back," the male teacher said. Clearly, he treated this ice eagle very well. The back of the ice eagle was very slippery and it was not easy to stand on it. The male teacher circulated his fighting aura and stood steadily on the back of the magical beast. Then, he mischievously looked at the students as they climbed up and slid down. With every step, Ning Shu would get some water in front of him. Using the cold aura on the ice eagle, he made a small step and climbed up the ice eagle's back step by step. He turned around and said to Mia, "Come up quickly." Mia stepped on the small steps made by Ning Shu and carefully carried her bag onto the ice eagle's back. The others followed. Rita was angry and did not want to step on the things made by Ning Shu. She could not climb up the ice eagle's back for a long time. Everyone stared at Rita and waited for her. Rita was very embarrassed and could only grit her teeth and climb up the ice eagle's back. Rita felt terrible. Climbing up the ice eagle's back like this was like admitting defeat to Avril. Avril might be mocking her in her heart now. The ice eagle flapped its wings and flew up. The students on its back staggered and quickly squatted down. There was water under Ning Shu's feet. The water was frozen, allowing the soles of Ning Shu's shoes to be connected to the ice eagle's body. He was firmly attached to the ice eagle's back and would not fall. "Cousin, we are flying." Mia squatted carefully and looked down. Ning Shu only grunted. "This time, we're going to the Great R's forest to look at the plants and magical beasts in the periphery. You've only seen these things in books, or the magical beasts in cages at school. This time, you'll see a magical beast alive and kicking. Remember, the R's Great Forest is very dangerous. Do not run around." The hearts of young people were always restless. They were full of anticipation for adventure. The teacher's words did not make them afraid. Instead, they were full of anticipation. Ning Shu was practicing a peerless martial art. Perhaps it was because they were in the air, but the spiritual energy was slightly more than on the ground. There were too many living things on the ground. Plants, animals, and so on, the aura was chaotic. Ning Shu was very careful about this training. For people like the Crown Prince, there were people protecting him. They would not really throw him into such a dangerous place. Although Mia was a pharmacist, she had many people helping her, so she was fine. Perhaps the person who asked for help would be fine, but they might make a fool of themselves. Ning Shu did not want to make a fool of himself. The Ice Eagle's speed was very fast. The students on its back were shivering from the cold. The Ice Eagle's cold air was really too cold. Mia took out some medicine and gave it to the frozen students. She drank some herself. Mia took out a small bottle of medicine and gave it to Ning Shu. "Cousin, you drink some too." Ning Shu shook his head. "No need. I am not that cold." Rita said, "The medicine is very precious. Mia, you don't have to force it on others." She was implying that Ning Shu did not know what was good for him. Ning Shu looked at Rita and said directly, "Are you crazy? I am not that cold. I don't need medicine. I rejected it. What's the problem?" Chapter 3706. Or should I drink the potion even if I don't need it? Who knows what will happen in the future? What's wrong with keeping the potion when you don't need it? Ning Shu looked at Rita coldly. "Stop trying to sow discord between us sisters. I have the right to give my opinion on the friends my cousin makes. Someone like you who harbors ill intentions and uses Mia has no right to be Mia's friend. Also, don't interrupt. You're very rude. If there's a next time, I'll have to bet my dignity as a magician and fight you," Ning Shu said rudely. At the mention of a fight, the people on the Ice Eagle's back had strange expressions and looked at Wakel in front. Wakel was speechless. "Fuck you." Rita's face turned red from Ning Shu's words. She was embarrassed and angry. Avril was really annoying. She said angrily, "Didn't you bully Mia?" Ning Shu rolled his eyes. "It's none of your business. Do you think you're so righteous that you think I bullied Mia? Did Mia tell you that I bullied her? Do you not have brains or ears? You go around saying that I bullied Mia every day. Mia is so pitiful. Are you sure Mia is pitiful? You're using my cousin to show your sympathy and superiority. There are so many magicians in the school. You're so capable. You'll only be capable if you smear all the magicians' names." Ning Shu pointed at Rita. "You insulted me. I'm going to challenge you with my dignity as a magician." Everyone was speechless. Was Avril addicted to duels? She kept saying that she wanted to duel with Wakel. Moreover, Rita was just a weak pharmacist. If she fought with a magician, she would be ground to the ground. Unless she made some poison. Pharmacists could make medicine that could save people's lives, but they could also make things that could harm people's lives. The problem was whether the medicine could hurt people. Rita was speechless. Fuck, Avril didn't want it. She, a magician, wanted to challenge a pharmacist. How shameless. Ning Shu looked at Rita. "Do you accept?" "Accept, accept." The journey was very boring. Now that there was a show to watch, the onlookers were not afraid of making a big deal out of it. The teacher in charge didn't stop them. He just watched the students make a fuss. This was a dispute between students. Rita's face was flushed red. She did not dare to agree. The difference in strength between the two of them was too great. It would be embarrassing to fight. Rita was furious and anxious. Her heart was filled with resentment towards Ning Shu. Mia was dumbfounded. She didn't understand how things had developed to this point. One was her cousin, and the other was her friend. Mia was also in a dilemma. Mia had no choice but to act coquettishly in front of Ning Shu. "Cousin, we are all friends." Ning Shu sneered at Rita. "Is she my friend? It's my friend who's slandering me. Is she a friend? She's an enemy. She's the one who keeps provoking me. Cousin, you should stay away from people like her. Who knows when she will slander you behind your back." Mia shook her head. "Rita isn't that kind of person." Ning Shu said, "Hee, no. Then who's the one who's going around saying that I bullied my cousin? Which eye of hers saw it? She's spouting nonsense with her mouth wide open. I really want to tear her mouth apart. Do you accept my challenge? Rita looked at the cold Ning Shu. She was angry and afraid. She didn't want to be defeated by Ning Shu in the arena. Weikel, who was in front, turned around and looked at Ning Shu and Rita. He said, I accept your challenge on her behalf. I will fight with you. Ning Shu coughed. She almost died from laughter. Weikel was really an angel. She was still thinking about when she would fight with Weikel again. She didn't expect Weikel to send himself to her door. She wanted to teach Rita a lesson. However, besides venting her anger, there was no benefit in teaching Rita a lesson. But Weikel was different. It would only be interesting if the chicken was strong enough. How wonderful. When she was strong enough and people saw her strength, they wouldn't dare to provoke her. Rita mocked her all the time because she wasn't strong enough for these people to respect her. Those who spoke nonsense didn't have to pay the price, so they said it casually. However, if they had to pay the price, they had to use their brains before speaking. Weikel stood up like a hero to save the weak. His image was really great. It was this hero who had a swollen face. Rita's face flushed red. She looked at Weikel with tears in her eyes. A hero saving a damsel in distress was an action that could make a girl's heart race. Weikel was especially popular with the girls in school. He was a famous person in school, yet he stood up for her and fought someone else. Even if Rita didn't think too much about it, her heart couldn't help but race. Rita was obviously overthinking. Everyone else, including Weikel himself, knew that he was trying to get back at her. Weikel was still unconvinced. He felt that he had underestimated his opponent, which was why he was beaten black and blue. If it happened again, Weikel definitely wouldn't underestimate his opponent. Ning Shu glanced at Rita's radiant face and didn't say anything. Weikel said, "You don't dare." Ning Shu shrugged. "There's nothing to be afraid of. I'm very busy. If you want to challenge me, sure. Queue up. First come, first served, understand? After I fight Rita, I'll fight you." Rita froze when she heard that. Was she still going to fight Avril? Wasn't Weikel fighting in her place? To be honest, Rita didn't want to fight a magician at all. She couldn't imagine how embarrassing that would be. Was there no one else who could fight in her place? No one stood up on the Ice Eagle. Rita's heart sank. She couldn't help but look at Weikel. Weikel didn't care about Rita. After all, his goal was to fight Avril. He had achieved his goal. As for whether Avril wanted to fight someone else, it was none of his business. Rita was speechless. She went from hopeful to disappointed. Most importantly, the bubble in her heart had been burst. This made Rita very upset. She thought that Weikel was fighting in her place, but in reality, he wasn't. It's so hard to bear. Ning Shu's expression was very colorful. Rita said, "When we get back, we'll fight. You have to be prepared. Of course, if you can find someone to fight in your place, that's fine too." Rita was troubled. Who should she find? Ning Shu then said to the bruised Weikel, "When the fight with Rita is over, we'll fight." Everyone was speechless. Had Avril become a battle maniac? She would fight whenever she didn't like it. When did the cold and arrogant Avril become so combative? Would Avril say, "Draw your sword, let's fight in the future," if they had any conflicts? They couldn't afford to offend her. To view the new chapter, please go to mobile address. To view the new chapter, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3707. Because of the duel, Rita was much more well-behaved. Sometimes, she would be angry, but she didn't dare to talk back. Whenever Rita talked back, Ning Shu wouldn't hold back. After a few rounds, Rita didn't gain any advantage, so she naturally didn't dare to provoke Ning Shu. If Rita dared to talk nonsense, Ning Shu wouldn't listen and would challenge her. Let's see who couldn't take it first. Ning Shu looked at the Crown Prince and Whacker's group. The client's reputation had been ruined because of this group. Heh, let's beat the pawn Whacker down first. Ning Shu stared at Whacker's back without restraint, causing Whacker's body to stiffen. Whacker felt that this gaze was filled with killing intent, as well as malice. It made him feel uneasy. Whacker didn't know when this girl had become so angry with him. Could it be that she was holding a grudge after he warned her? Whacker turned to look at Ning Shu and Mia. These sisters were really strange. Crown Prince Iraq noticed Whacker's abnormality and asked, "What's wrong?" Whacker shook his head. "Nothing, I'm just thinking about Avril." Iraq raised an eyebrow and looked at Whacker. Whacker immediately shook his head. "Your Highness, it's not what you think. I just feel that Avril is holding a grudge. I'm the first, and she might make a move against you next." Iraq narrowed his eyes. "Her strength isn't enough for me to make a move. It's just a girl's thoughts." Iraq also understood that Avril was fighting back because of the rumors. Their attitude would affect the end of the rumors, so she wanted to make a move against them. Iraq smiled. Whacker couldn't take the provocation and sent himself to her door to show off. Challenging him? He was probably thinking too much. Then, Iraq frowned. Avril's father was a powerful Grand Magus and was also a Count of the Empire. To the Empire, he was an indispensable force. In terms of benefits, Iraq felt that offending Avril and standing on the side of an orphan while offending the Count's own daughter wasn't worth it. This was a little girl's matter, why did they have to butt in? Iraq felt that his mind was a little muddled. He was the Crown Prince. If word got out that he was caught up in a fight between young girls, it would be really unpleasant to hear. Immediately after, Iraq also felt a gaze on him. Needless to say, it was Avril. Iraq sighed. He had made a mistake. It was troublesome to be involved in a girl's affairs. It was obvious that Avril had her eyes on him. What was the point of beating a little girl? It was not honorable to win, and it was even more embarrassing to lose. Ning Shu slowly walked forward a few steps and said to Iraq, "Your Highness." Iraq slowly turned his head and said in a noble tone, "What is it?" Ning Shu's attitude was very respectful. He said, "Your Highness, I've heard that your magic has reached the acme of perfection. There are many things I'm not very clear about. Please enlighten me, Your Highness. Your Highness, please have a duel with me so that I can fully understand my own shortcomings." Iraq's face trembled, but he didn't say anything. Rita couldn't help but snort. "Who do you think you are? You want to duel with the Crown Prince?" Ning Shu glanced at her. "Why can't I duel? I'm using my status as a magus to communicate with the Crown Prince, who is also a magus." "You're using your status as a student to communicate with the Crown Prince? You mean I can't duel with the Crown Prince? You should first take care of yourself and find someone to duel for you. Otherwise, you'll have to personally go to the duel. I'm a magus. I will treat my magic seriously and release it meticulously." Rita's face was filled with anger. She choked out a "you" and didn't say anything else. Ning Shu looked at Iraq. "Your Highness, please enlighten me." If it weren't for the fact that he had to be wary of the imperial family's might, Iraq would have rolled his eyes. If he agreed to a duel in front of so many people, people would say that he was bullying the weak. If he didn't agree, the imperial family's might would be gone. Whacker said, "You've already dueled with me. Now you're going to duel with the Crown Prince." Ning Shu directly said, "You are you. The Crown Prince is the Crown Prince. After I duel with you, I'll duel with the Crown Prince. Is there a problem?" Everyone, it really was a dueling magus, and the Crown Prince was ranked behind Whacker. Ning Shu looked at the Crown Prince. "Your Highness, can you duel as a magus?" In front of so many people, Wakel couldn't refuse. He said, "All right, I accept your challenge." Ning Shu nodded. "All right. I'll let you know the exact date. You must come." Iraq, Ning Shu's face was filled with satisfaction. He said to the people on the Ice Eagle, "Everyone is welcome to challenge me. Only with challenges can you improve." Everyone else averted their gazes and did not look at Ning Shu. Wacker couldn't help but say, "Crown Prince, you want me to duel for you? What is your status?" "What is her status?" "You're lowering yourself for no reason." Iraq shook his head. "She already said it. As a magus. At this time, using the Crown Prince's status to pressure people would be a joke. Mia, in just a short while, her cousin was going to duel with 3 people. What could she do? She could only make some medicine. Mia didn't understand why her cousin was going around looking for people to challenge. During this time, they arrived at their destination, Ars. From afar, Ars was an endless forest, a sea of trees. It was full of danger. There were magical beasts and dangerous plants. The town was bustling with activity. There was an army stationed here, and there were mercenaries who hunted the magical beasts in the Ars forest to make a fortune. At the same time, the army was stationed here to manage the place. Although the town wasn't big, it was rich and had a lot of tax revenue. The other reason was to protect the town. Sometimes, magical beasts would go crazy and attack the town. The Ice Eagle stopped outside the town. Everyone jumped down from the Ice Eagle's back. Some people directly vomited. They were clearly airsick. The teacher in charge led the students into the town but was stopped by the guards. The teacher in charge took out a sign. They didn't need the Crown Prince to reveal his identity. They could enter. There were many restaurants and inns in the town. They found the largest one and stayed. However, the person in charge did say that 2 people should stay in a room. First, they could take care of each other. Second, it was to save money. The students went to find their roommates. Rita held Mia's hand tightly. She raised her chin and looked at Ning Shu. "Mia and I will stay in the same room. Let's see who you can find." To watch the new chapter of Zoe, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3708. One room is just one room. Why are you being so loud? No one is in the same room as me. It's great to have a room alone. What's there to be proud of? Ning Shu couldn't be bothered with Rita. What's there to show off about? Ning Shu was planning to pay for a single room. One room for one person. Great. I have money. As for the awkwardness of being singled out, there was no awkwardness at all. I'll share a room with you. A girl stood beside Ning Shu. Ning Shu smiled. Ning Shu sized her up and searched through his memories. It was obvious that Avril did not have a deep impression of this classmate. It was very vague. The mage's clothes on this girl were a little old. It was obvious that she had been wearing them for a long time. They had been starched many times, causing the color to be a little dim. This kind of mage's uniform was issued by the school. It was equivalent to a school uniform. Other than looking good, it had a slight effect. It could help people meditate, but the effect was very small. Usually, very few people were willing to wear a mage's robe. This girl's family background was probably not very good. Ning Shu's hope of a single room was shattered. He nodded. "All right, you'll share a room with me." My name is Manda." Manda obviously knew that Ning Shu did not know his name. Ning Shu nodded. He waited for the teacher to give him the room number and entered the room with Manda. The room was not small, and the bed was very big. The 2 of them would not be crowded. Manda was a little reserved in front of Ning Shu. He said, "Thank you. It's okay. Anyway, the teacher said that two people share a room, Ning Shu said. Manda said, I'm an earth mage. I know you're a water mage. Ning Shu nodded. Manda began to tidy up the bedding. He dusted the bedding and quilt. His movements were agile. Ning Shu poured some water into the teacup and held it up to drink. Manda saw that Ning Shu used magic elements to gather water just to drink. The corners of his mouth twitched. The magic elements in his body were so precious. Ning Shu saw Manda staring at him and asked, Do you want to drink too? Manda quickly shook her head. I'm not thirsty. Even if she wanted to drink, she could just ask the shop owner for some. When it was time for dinner, Ning Shu and Manda left the room. Rita, who was next door, held Mia's arm and walked past Ning Shu arrogantly, like a rooster stretching its neck to crow. Ning Shu couldn't be bothered with him. Childish, superficial, and laughable. Will you still be angry because Mia chose you? Manda Ning Shu said, Let's eat. Everyone gathered around the table. The meal was very sumptuous. There was also magical beast meat, which became delicious after the chef's skillful hands. Ning Shu found an empty seat and sat down. He patted the seat next to him and said to Manda, Come and sit. Manda, oh my God, I don't dare to sit down. Manda glanced at the people at the table. The Crown Prince, Wakal, and the other nobles. She really wasn't suited to sit at this table. Manda said, There's no need. There's an empty seat here. I'll sit here. Manda hurriedly found a seat and sat down, but she didn't go to Ning Shu's side. Ning Shu didn't force her. He picked up a piece of bread and ate it while drinking the meat soup. Wakal coughed, but Ning Shu ignored him. He coughed a few more times. Ning Shu looked at Wakal. Don't you feel disgusted at the table? You keep spitting. Cough, cough, cough. Wakal really coughed this time. Everyone at the table looked at him unhappily. This time, Wakal stopped coughing. The Crown Prince tore a small piece of bread and put it in his mouth. He narrowed his eyes and looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu glanced at her, and the Crown Prince shifted his gaze away, afraid that she would spit out more unbearable words. At night, Ning Shu sat cross-legged and meditated. At the same time, he absorbed the spirit qi on the ground to strengthen his body. Manda didn't dare to disturb Ning Shu. She quietly sat cross-legged and began to meditate. She didn't know if it was because there were two people meditating together, but Manda felt that there were a lot of magic elements around her. The magic elements she absorbed into her body were also more than usual. Her teacher usually said that she had to be quiet and meditating and couldn't be disturbed. She had never meditated with two people before. Could it be that two people meditating together could actually speed up her cultivation? Manda sped up her cultivation and sank into deep meditation. She meditated until dawn. Manda opened her eyes. Ariel was no longer beside her. A satisfied smile appeared on Manda's face. Last night, she had absorbed more magic elements. She might be able to break through to become a magic apprentice. Manda felt that she should make use of the next few days to meditate with Ariel. Ning Shu felt that Manda was acting strangely. She was suddenly attentive to her and even brought breakfast to her with a smile. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu drank his fruit juice and asked, What are you doing? Manda smiled and said, We're in the same house. We'll take care of each other. Ning Shu said, Speak human language. Manda said, Let's meditate and cultivate together tonight. Ning Shu asked, Reason? Manda said, I feel that if the two of us cultivate together, the speed will be much faster. Ning Shu nodded and said casually, Whatever. Manda was very happy and placed the bread in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu raised her eyebrows and didn't say anything. She had to cultivate anyway. As for whether Manda was cultivating by her side or not, it didn't matter. After breakfast, the lead teacher asked the students to gather and prepare to set off for the R's Great Forest. Ning Shu carried her bag and took out dried meat from her bag. She chewed it slowly and happily. Manda followed beside Ning Shu with a smile. Ning Shu blinked and handed her a few pieces of dried meat. Do you want some? Thank you. Manda took the dried meat and chewed it. It tasted really good. TSK. Rita made a sarcastic sound. Obviously, she couldn't stand Manda following behind Ning Shu. This Manda was just sucking up to Avril because she was from a noble family. How disgusting. Ning Shu glanced at Rita. Rita's body tensed up immediately and she pulled Mia away. Mia turned around and saw Manda standing with her cousin. She felt a little disappointed. She and her cousin were sisters, but they didn't get along well. Now that there was someone by her cousin's side, Mia couldn't describe how she felt. Previously, her cousin had always been alone and cold. She didn't have any friends by her side, so Mia didn't feel anything. Now that she had friends, logically speaking, Mia should be happy for her cousin. But in fact, she was very disappointed. Why didn't her cousin like her? What are you looking at? What's there to see? One is vain, and the other is a flatterer. They're a match made in heaven. Rita tugged at Mia. Ning Shu looked at Rita and said, "Repeat what you said just now." Rita was a little weak, but she puffed out her chest and said, "Am I wrong?" Ning Shu said, "I've decided to challenge you again. The reason is that you've insulted my dignity. Now is the time. To view the new chapter of Zoe, please go to mobile address. To view the new chapter of Zoe, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3709. You want to duel now? The problem was that they were going to the Great R's Forest now. Even the teacher was unhappy. When we get back, you can duel as you wish. Don't mess around outside. It was a waste of everyone's time. Besides, the forest was so dangerous. What was the point of a duel now? Everyone was unhappy with Ning Shu and Rita. Why did you have to provoke her for no reason? She was always looking for a duel. Every time she challenged someone, she insulted the mage's dignity. Forget it once, why didn't she learn her lesson? Rita was so angry that her face turned red. She didn't expect Ning Shu to challenge her to a duel now. Ning Shu said to the teacher, "It won't take long. 1 minute will do." The teacher was speechless. This wasn't a matter of time. Don't you think it's a problem to duel the moment you leave? Ning Shu pointed at Rita. Hurry up, don't waste everyone's time. Avril, don't go too far, Rita said angrily. Do you have any respect for the others? Hurry up, you're wasting everyone's time. Ning Shu condensed a water element in Ning Shu's hand. It was obvious that he was going to make a move now. The surrounding people formed a circle, obviously waiting to watch the show. Ning Shu and Rita stood in the circle. At this time, even Mia was pulled away by the others. There was no one around Rita. Her face was so red that it looked like it could bleed blood. Ning Shu condensed a water arrow and shot it at Rita. Rita was a potion master. She didn't know how to fight like this. Besides, her body was not strong enough. She could only watch as the water arrow shot at her. Rita couldn't dodge the water arrow in time and sat on the ground. She could only cover her head with her arms, not daring to look at the water arrow. Like a turtle, she shrunk back. The water arrows whizzed around Rita and turned into water trails. Rita didn't feel any pain. She put down her arms and looked outside. What she saw was Avril's sarcastic smile. Rita was extremely embarrassed. She was embarrassed by how she looked and also because of the other party's mockery. Ning Shu sneered, "Wait until we go back, you should find someone to fight for you. Fighting with you like this is really a waste of my time." Rita's body was a little weak. When she stood up, she fell and sat down. She looked even more pathetic. Ning Shu said to the teacher, "The duel is over." Everyone was speechless. Was this a duel? No matter how he looked at it, it looked more like a game. The teacher in charge was speechless for a moment before leading the team towards the great R's forest. Weikel sneered, "A warrior prefers death to humiliation. You're just trying to humiliate me." Ning Shu snorted and looked at Weikel with a cold smile. "You also know that a Taoist priest can be killed but not humiliated. How come Rita's words weren't an insult to me? If you want to say that I'm bullying the weak, why don't you tell me why I should let Rita humiliate me as she pleases and push some ridiculous charges onto me?" Ning Shu, "What, should I let Rita humiliate me as she pleases?" Weikel was annoyed by Ning Shu's sharp tongue. "That's not what I mean." Ning Shu looked at Weikel. "Then what do you mean? You didn't see Rita humiliating me, but you saw me fight with her." "Oh, I understand. You mean that I'm a magician and Rita is an ordinary person. So it's not a big deal for Rita to say a few words about me. If I make a fuss about it, then it's my fault." Ning Shu looked Weikel up and down. "Actually, from what I can see, Weikel, you like men." Weikel immediately flew into a rage, a disgusted expression on his face. "What nonsense are you talking about? What kind of men do I like? What are you jumping for? I'm just saying. You're so generous, so you won't make a fuss about my nonsense, right? If it didn't concern him, he wouldn't care. It just didn't happen to him." Weikel was so angry that his fighting aura surged. His eyes were bloodshot and filled with killing intent. He couldn't help but pull out the sword on his back. It looked like he wanted to cut Ning Shu into pieces. Ning Shu shrugged her shoulders and said, "See? It's just a few words and you're already angry from embarrassment." He wanted to fight for justice and show off his righteousness and kindness. Why was there another conflict? The teacher held back his anger and asked, "What's wrong now?" Ning Shu said, "Teacher, I just casually said a few words and he went berserk." Crown Prince Iraq frowned and pressed his hand on Weikel's shoulder to stop him. "Calm down." Weikel panted heavily. "I really want to rip her mouth off. That mouth of hers was really hateful." Ning Shu looked at the Crown Prince and Weikel and let out a meaningful chuckle. Iraq, Weikel, the surrounding people, they couldn't help but wonder what was going on. Iraq retracted his hand from Weikel's shoulder. If this continued, who knew what kind of rumors would spread? The teacher was very tired. "Stop messing around. If you do, get lost." Ning Shu said obediently, "Yes, teacher." After this commotion, the other students looked at Ning Shu with fear. Other than Manda, who was by Ning Shu's side, the others didn't get close to Ning Shu. This was the effect Ning Shu wanted. Without fear, he dared to blabber. With fear, he would pay the price. Only then could he keep his mouth shut. Weikel was still very angry. His walking posture was very stiff and his footsteps were very heavy. He wanted to break his feet. Crown Prince said to Weikel, "Don't get into a conflict with Avril." Weikel was even angrier. "Are you going to let her do whatever she wants? Wait until the event is over. Let's talk when we get back to school." Crown Prince frowned. Women were troublesome. It seemed that this whole thing had started because of Avril and Mia. He didn't know when it started, but there were rumors in school that Avril bullied his cousin Mia. And the more the rumors spread, the more they seemed to be true. Mia was indeed pitiful. Weikel took care of her more, so it was inevitable that he didn't have a good impression of Avril, who bullied the weak. Speaking of which, these rumors were probably fueled by them. Sometimes, their behavior was their attitude. If that was the case, was Avril taking revenge? Crown Prince didn't want to get entangled with a woman and mess things up. Avril was a girl, and he was the Crown Prince of a country. Messing with her like this was no different from trying to hit a smelly and hard rock with a delicate porcelain. The Crown Prince was facing the same situation as Avril and Mia. Crown Prince felt a little bitter. If the other party didn't stop, his reputation would definitely be affected. To view the new chapter of Zoe, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3710. The Crown Prince was a little annoyed and his expression was not good. Wakel's expression was even worse. As for the group of noble children, they were also troubled. In short, the atmosphere was rather gloomy. Mia supported Rita and looked at Ning Shu, then at the Crown Prince's group. She really did not understand why her cousin had to get into a conflict with so many people. And it was not a good thing to have a conflict with the Crown Prince. Mia thought that when she went back, she had to talk to her uncle. It was also for the Earl's residence. Owl's great forest was very big. Even the periphery was filled with towering trees. However, there were many traces of human activity in the periphery, forming small paths that extended into the forest. There were also some household trash. There were also some people who built tents and lived here, forming one camp after another. There were all kinds of people here. The leading teacher brought a group of young-looking students in. It was very eye-catching. Many of the gazes even had a hint of malicious intent. In this kind of place, it was a lawless area. The people who lived here were all wily old foxes. They made money from killing and had the smell of blood on their bodies. Their exposed skin was full of scars. Under such gazes, some of the students showed fear on their faces. The leading teacher's expression was calm. Clearly, he had the ability to protect the students. Manda leaned against Ning Shu. Looking at Ning Shu's cold face, she felt much more at ease. The other students showed a little nervousness on their faces, but Avril did not. Ning Shu glanced at her and handed her some jerky. "Do you want to eat?" Manda, she did not know whether to laugh or cry. The leading teacher said, "Today, we'll walk around the periphery. I'll bring you to see the plants and animals in Owls, as well as some local customs." Local customs? Probably to let the students see the dangers of the world. Bringing such a large group of people was no different from herding a flock of sheep into a pack of wolves. These teachers were also very ambitious. They were probably really strong. Ning Shu was not worried at all. Even if the sky fell, with these teachers watching, she could eat and drink as she pleased. The forest is very dangerous. Everyone, pay attention to your feet. Even the grass that you don't see is dangerous, the leading teacher reminded them. The teacher's words made the students even more nervous. A rabbit suddenly jumped out of the bushes, scaring the students and causing them to scream. Ning Shu chewed on the jerky and almost laughed out loud. Manda, thought was he gloating over their misfortune? The students were frightened, and then they witnessed a group of mercenaries fighting with a pack of wind wolves. The wind wolf was a magical beast, and its attribute was wind. It was extremely fast, and it could even release whirlwinds. Its battle prowess was not weak. The scene was quite bloody. People died, and wolves also died. In short, this group of students had never seen such a scene before. Mia's face was ghastly pale as she looked at the blood splattered all over the ground. Rita, who was beside her, did not dare to look any further. All of them covered their mouths, afraid that the magic beasts would hear them, and even more afraid that they would disturb the mercenaries. Such a cruel scene caused these students to be shocked. Mia whispered to the teacher, "Aren't we going to help them?" Before the teacher could speak, the wind wolves heard the commotion. A few of them climbed up the tall rocks and rushed towards the students hiding behind the rocks. The mage threw a fireball at the wind wolf. As soon as the fireball came into contact with the wind wolf, it quickly spread to the entire wolf. The wind wolf howled in agony as it was burned to death. With a plop, it fell to the ground. The mercenaries noticed the commotion here. Looking at the group of young noble children and a few powerful people, the mercenaries clearly knew that this was a chance to be saved, so they all rushed over. Of course, the Wind Wolves also followed. The leading teacher was helpless. At this time, he could only make a move. Otherwise, these Wind Wolves would hurt the students. These Wind Wolves were no match for the leading teacher at all. They were killed in a few moves. The mercenaries thanked the leading teacher one after another. Then, they began to dissect the Wind Wolves' corpses with knives. The knives stabbed into the Wind Wolves' heads, and their brains splattered. Then, they dug through the brains to look for irregular magic crystals. This scene was really unbearable. Rita couldn't help but say, "Aren't they sad about the death of their companions? They're in a hurry to deal with the spoils of war. They didn't care about the corpses of their companions. They were really cold-blooded. No one was fighting with them over the spoils. Moreover, many of the Wind Wolves here were killed by their teachers." The other students had the same expression as Rita. They didn't have a good impression of these mercenaries. They even looked down on them. Ning Shu rolled his eyes and didn't say anything. Rita was paying attention to Ning Shu. Seeing Ning Shu's expression, she couldn't help but say, "What's with your expression?" Ning Shu said, "Why do you care what my expression is? Don't talk to me." You, as they spoke, the mercenaries had finished dealing with the Wind Wolves' corpses. They dug out the magic crystals and plucked the fur. They all had satisfied expressions on their faces. Clearly, the harvest this time was not small. The expressions on these people's faces deeply irritated the inexperienced students. They couldn't accept it. When the mercenaries came to thank the teacher in charge, the students looked at them with disdain. These mercenaries were also from the underworld and understood people's hearts. They explained, "This is how we live. Sooner or later, we will die under the claws of the magical beasts. We rely on this to earn money. The more we earn, the more subsidies we can give to the families of those who lost their companions." Did they not collect the spoils and instead cry while hugging the corpses of their companions? It wasn't easy to survive. They didn't have the mood to be sad. This was how they lived their lives. Moreover, some of the people in the team were formed temporarily. In the end, they were unlucky and died, leaving nothing behind. It was impossible for them to have any feelings for a temporary team member. You are the children of nobles. You don't know how we live. If it wasn't for the fact that the teachers were too strong, the mercenaries would have wanted to plunder the rich things on these tender-faced children. Any one of these things would probably be worth more than the magical beasts they killed. Alright, that's it for today. Let's go back. The teacher in charge said directly. These mercenaries lived a life of blood and knives. As long as there were benefits, they would give their lives. The group was already mentally exhausted. After experiencing such a bloody event, they had long since wanted to go back. They resentfully walked back. The group of mercenaries followed not far behind them. They were carrying the corpses of the dead mercenaries. They probably wanted to take advantage of the situation. When they returned to the inn, the crown prince ordered hot water and prepared to take a bath. Everyone smelled their bodies and felt that they were filled with the smell of blood. Apart from some people feeling uncomfortable, some people's blood surged. For example, Wakel was born to fight. He thirsted for battle, thirsted for conquest. To view the new chapter, please go to mobile address. To view the new chapter, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3711. The teacher saw that the students were so dispirited. Other than a small number of battle-hungry people, the rest were not in good spirits. There were also some who were careless and did not feel anything. He decided that he should train the students and find a not-so-powerful magical beast to train the students. Without going through battle, mages and warriors would not be able to train. School life was too easy. What was the purpose of mages and warriors' existence? It was to fight and protect. If they did not fight and were protected because mages and warriors were precious, wouldn't that be putting the cart before the horse? So the next morning, the teacher happily announced that they would be going to the Great R's forest to train. Instantly, there were cries of distress. Everyone was asking the teacher not to go. They did not have a good rest last night and their minds were filled with blood. The teacher said no. If they did not go, it would affect the results. Moreover, the results this time would depend on the students' performance in the forest. The perception of danger and the way to deal with it. The students could only be in their best condition. Rita held her stomach and raised her hand to the teacher. "Teacher, my stomach is not feeling well. I don't want to go." Rita really did not want to go. She was a potion master and did not have any fighting ability. Moreover, Rita was most worried that Ariel would take advantage of the chaos to attack her. If something really happened, what would she do? Rita did not dare to underestimate Ariel's narrow-mindedness. Now Rita more or less understood why Ariel was making things difficult for her. It was because she had exposed Ariel's bullying of the weak. "Let's see if you can stop everyone's mouths after saying that you're not allowed to do it." The teacher did not make things difficult for Rita. After all, she was a potion master. However, he had already given Rita points in his heart. Although a potion master did not have any fighting ability, they were actually the logistics of the team. Their role was to replenish the team's resources. Potions were indispensable. At the very least, they had to give some to the injured team members. A team like the mercenaries would definitely have a potion master. Even if they did not, they would bring potions with them. Without light magic and water magic for healing, a potion master would be the logistics of the team. A potion master would usually treat wounds and perform emergency treatment on some wounds. They would also be able to find life-saving herbs from the surroundings. A potion master was not that simple. The teacher said, "Who else is not willing to go?" "It depends on your choice." A classmate asked, "If we don't go, will it affect our grades?" The teacher in charge, "Of course. Otherwise, wouldn't it be too unfair if you guys had it easy while the other students are working so hard?" When Rita heard this, her face turned pale. What should she do if her results were affected? But it was too dangerous for her to tag along. Rita could not help but glare at Ning Shu. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. Rita tugged at Mia and said, "It's too dangerous. Don't go either." There were only 2 pharmacists here. Even if he didn't go, Rita still wanted Mia to stay as well. This way, she didn't seem to be a big deal. If everyone made mistakes, it wouldn't be so scary. Mia was a little hesitant. "But if I don't go, the others won't have any potions, and they won't know how to use them either. If your stomach isn't feeling well, then don't go." "I'll go." Rita felt that the excuse of a stomachache was too stupid. She did not even have the chance to back out now. Seeing that no one else was left behind and she was the only one left, how awkward was that? Rita immediately said, "Teacher, my stomach doesn't hurt that much anymore. I'll go too." Laughter sounded from the surroundings, causing Rita's face to turn red, white, and purple. It was a riot of colors. The teacher in charge was still very satisfied. No one backed down. Moreover, the training they were going to do was very ordinary. As long as the students showed their standard, it could be solved. Moreover, with their protection, what danger could there be? The group set off towards the R's great forest. On the way, the teacher gave out homework. Your homework this time is to catch 20 magic rabbits each. This is the passing mark. The more you catch, the better your results. Magic rabbits are the magic beasts with the weakest attack in the R's great forest. They don't know how to use magic, but their bodies are much bigger than normal rabbits. Their most powerful feature is their mouthful of teeth, and their reproductive ability is amazing. The crops around the town are planted. A nest of magic rabbits can be ruined in one night. The teacher in charge smiled and said, "Of course, magic rabbit meat is delicious too. When you come back, pass your victory to the chef and let them prepare a meal of rabbit meat for you." Ning Shu, cold rabbit meat, spicy rabbit head, spicy and sour rabbit meat. Rita spoke again, "Teacher, we don't have any combat power. How can we kill magic rabbits? If she and Mia didn't kill a single magic rabbit, then they wouldn't get any results." The teacher in charge said, "You have another way of calculating. Don't worry, it will be fair." The teacher in charge went to the mercenary union in advance and used money to buy information about magic rabbits. There were more magic rabbits in the area. He directly brought the students to the magic rabbits base camp. There were fewer trees in this area, and the grass was lush. There were many caves in the grass, and who knew how many magic rabbits were hiding in the caves. Moreover, when the magic rabbits outside saw people, they moved quickly and dove into the caves. Seeing the magic rabbits move so quickly, the students were a little dumbfounded. According to the teacher, these rabbits weren't very strong and didn't know how to use magic. However, they were so fast that it wasn't easy to catch them. Moreover, when they dove into the caves, where could they catch them? Moreover, it wasn't easy to catch them in the grass. Wasn't it easy to catch 20 of them? They were thinking too much. It wasn't easy to catch 2. The teacher in charge had a gloating smile on his face. "Let's begin. The earlier we finish, the earlier we can go back and rest." The students were helpless. They rolled up their sleeves and began to catch the rabbits. However, the magic rabbits were very fast and not easy to catch. Whether it was mages or warriors, they were a little helpless at this time. By the time the mages finished chanting the magic incantation, the rabbits were long gone. Some of the students were even kicked by the magic rabbits, and their faces were imprinted with rabbit footprints. Ning Shu patted the dried meat powder on his hands and began to work. He watched as the students used all kinds of dazzling magic, using fire, earth, and water. There were also some warriors who used swords to cut the rabbits. It was like using cannons to kill mosquitoes. Just the magic rabbits alone were enough to make a group of students difficult. The teacher in charge was very satisfied. The magic rabbits didn't have high damage, so it was just right for the students to practice. They wouldn't be hurt, and they could also train the students' abilities. Manda said to Ning Shu, "Do you want us to work together?" How was he supposed to catch this thing? Manda was confused. There was nothing he could do once he got into the cave. To watch the new chapter of Zoe, please go to mobile address. Chapter 37:12. Moreover, after such a commotion, the magic rabbits were all frightened. They crawled into the holes and never came out again. Even the crown prince was in a sorry state. He had yet to catch a rabbit. Rita could not help but sigh when she saw this situation. She did not know when she would be able to catch a rabbit. Perhaps she would not even be able to catch a rabbit when the sky turned dark. She wanted to see what Avril would do. Thinking of the proud Avril catching a rabbit in such a sorry state, she wanted to laugh. Rita probably could not understand what was going on in her mind now. There was fear in her resentment. She could not help but pay attention to her at all times. Seeing the other party make a fool of herself, she was extremely happy. Ning Shu thought for a moment. Manda was an earth mage, so he said, "Sure, let's work together. Build a slightly higher earth wall outside the cave and surround the entrance." Manda was a little puzzled, but he still used earth magic to solidify the surrounding earth. He built an arm-high earth wall and surrounded the entrance of the cave. Ning Shu said, "You guard here. I'll go to the other holes. When the rabbit comes out, you'll catch it cleanly." Ning Shu thought for a moment and took out a rope from his bag. The rope was as thick as a thumb. It was too thick. Ning Shu took the rope apart and made it into a thinner rope. Then, he made it into sections. When the rabbit comes out, you catch it and tie its legs one after the other. If you're afraid that the rabbit will run away, tie all 4 legs. Manda nodded. Okay. Ning Shu found another hole that was connected to the cave. Then, he poured water into the hole. If these rabbits did not want to die, they had to go out from another hole. However, the hole on the other side was already blocked. They would be caught if they went out. Manda was still waiting. Then, the sound of rabbits chirping came from the hole. Then, the magic rabbits in the hole rushed out. However, they were blocked by the earth wall. One by one, they wanted to jump out, but they all fell back. These magic rabbits were still wet. Manda immediately understood Ning Shu's intentions and cheered in his heart. The magic rabbits realized that they could not get out, but the cave was flooded. If they went in, they would die. The demon rabbits were now in a dilemma. Some of the demon rabbits were so anxious that they even jumped out of the wall. Manda quickly grabbed the magic rabbit and tied its 2 legs tightly with a rope. Then, he put it aside. In order to prevent the demon rabbit from escaping again, Manda condensed an earth wall and placed the demon rabbit inside. Ning Shu saw that it was about time. He went to the other side of the cave and asked Manda, "Is there enough?" There were scratches and bite marks on Manda's hands, as well as bloodstains. It was obvious that the magic rabbit had bitten and scratched them. Manda said, "Almost." Ning Shu, "Then let's go to the next nest." Ning Shu looked at Manda's hand and said to Mia, who was not far away, "Her hand is injured. Get some medicine for her, cousin." Mia quickly nodded and took out the ointment from her bag for Manda. Rita pouted. "You don't even know how to say thank you." Manda said, "Thank you." Mia smiled and said, "You're welcome. You guys caught the most rabbits. And it was very simple." As Manda applied the ointment, she said, "This is all Avril's idea." After applying the ointment, the burning sensation on Manda's hand dissipated a lot. She said, "Your ointment is really good." Next, Manda and Ning Shu did the same thing. When they had enough, the 2 of them had enough rabbits. Ning Shu was too lazy to get more. Their actions attracted everyone's attention. They also learned from them. One of them blocked the entrance of the cave, and the other blocked the other entrance. Of course, the methods were different. For example, the fire element could directly smoke the magic rabbit out. Of course, there were also people who wanted to work with Ning Shu. Ning Shu pointed at the bundled-up rabbits. "I have enough. I'm not catching any more." It was fine as long as they passed. This was about using magic, not how many rabbits they had to catch. Rita whispered to Mia, "Look at your cousin. She's so proud." The more glorious she was, the more uncomfortable Rita felt. The world was really unfair for a person like Avril to be so glorious. Mia looked at her cousin. "My cousin has always been very powerful." The teacher in charge just watched silently and gave the students a score. Ning Shu washed his hands with water and began to chew on the flavored jerky, waiting for the event to end. Eating while watching other people catch rabbits, this feeling was really great. Ning Shu released his spiritual power to check the situation around him. There were a lot of magic rabbits at the top of the food chain. Of course, there were a lot of them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to reproduce. Perhaps something would come to hunt. Ning Shu only used his spiritual power to scan just in case. He didn't expect there to be so many species in the owl's forest. However, Ning Shu found a giant python that was as thick as an adult's waist. Its entire body was pitch black. It had a big head and was spitting out its tongue. It was heading this way. Was this giant python coming to look for food? If it was really coming this way, they would definitely bump into it. Moreover, the snake was so big and ugly, and it had small fleshy wings on its body. It was obvious that it was a magical beast. Moreover, with such a big body, it must be powerful. In any case, Ning Shu felt that this group of students was just sending themselves to their deaths. In order to avoid conflict with the magical beasts, they should retreat. Ning Shu walked over and said to the teacher in charge, "Teacher, I think we should go. The magic rabbits are the food of many magical beasts. There will probably be magical beasts coming to hunt. Let's go." There were so many magic rabbits because they wanted to let these magical beasts eat their fill. After eating their fill, the remaining magic rabbits would be able to survive and continue to reproduce. They would win by numbers. The teacher in charge pondered for a moment and felt that it made sense. However, it wasn't so coincidental. Moreover, these students who were catching rabbits were really unwilling to leave. Rita said slyly again, "You've completed the number, so now you're urging the teacher to leave and making others fail?" Ning Shu looked at her coldly. "Fuck off. Don't talk to me. Don't express your opinions on my matters. I'll beat you up every time you say it. You're arguing with me in front of me. I'll fight you." Rita, Mia, Manda, the teacher in charge, was also a little speechless. These two people were really drunk. Avril was also reminding her why Rita thought of people like this. It was nothing more than a sense of danger. It wasn't a big deal to remind her. Mia tugged at Rita's sleeve and whispered, "Rita, my cousin is doing this out of kindness. She's thinking about everyone's safety." Ning Shu rolled his eyes. "Leave if you want." In any case, the most dangerous people were Rita and Mia. In any case, the snake was getting closer and closer to them. It was still not too late to leave now. If they delayed any longer, they would collide with the snake. To view the new chapter of Zoe, please go to mobile address. To view the new chapter of Zoe, please go to mobile address. Chapter 37:13. Ning Shu did not say anything else. She had already said what she needed to say. It was nothing more than having the teacher in charge take action. Looking at the scales on the giant snake's body, it seemed that its defense was very strong. These students were no match for it. Whether they left or not depended on the teacher in charge. Rita's face was red. It was obvious that she was about to go crazy from Ning Shu's words. "What are you saying? What do you mean by, fuck off? How can you scold me? To think that you're a mage. Apologize. Ning Shu, fuck off." Rita was so angry that her chest was heaving. She stared at Ning Shu with wide eyes. Even Mia was a little surprised. How could her proud cousin say such rude words? Ning Shu pointed at Rita. "How others treat me is how they treat me. Who isn't born for the first time? Rita, stop fucking talking in front of me. What the hell is this? It's none of your business. Since ancient times, it has been difficult to be a good person. It's so difficult to be a good person. She might as well be a bad person without so many restrictions." She wanted Rita to fear and respect her. Rita was so angry that she almost rolled her eyes. She pointed at Ning Shu. You. Ning Shu went to the side. Manda followed behind Ning Shu and asked, "Why is she always targeting you?" Ning Shu said indifferently, "Envy, jealousy, and hatred." Those who thought that they had caught someone else's weakness and could mock them for being jealous and hateful had to hurry up. Ning Shu released his spiritual power. Just as they were talking, the giant snake got closer and closer to them. It had already reached the wide grass. It twisted its body and crawled. The tall grass covered the body of the giant snake in the grass. Only the grass rustled. Ning Shu said to Manda, "Carry the magic rabbit. Let's stay away from here." Manda was a little confused. He wanted to ask something, but seeing that Avril was calling Mia, he stuffed the rabbit into his pocket. Ning Shu called Mia. "Mia, come here. I have something to tell you." Rita wanted to stop Mia, but there was no reason for her to do so. She could only watch as Mia passed by. Mia walked to Ning Shu obediently and asked, "Cousin, what did you call me for?" "It's nothing. Just stay by my side. Manda's hand hurts a lot." "Help her deal with it," Ning Shu said. Manda was stunned for a moment, but she still said, "Yes, my hand hurts a lot." "Mia, help me deal with it." Manda put down the bag and reached out her hand. There were scratches and bite marks on her hand. She had treated them before, but it still hurt to look at them. Mia took out the ointment and medicine from the bag. "You can drink the medicine. I'll help you apply the ointment." Mia began to treat Manda's wounds. "Here it comes." Ning Shu squinted his eyes and saw a giant snake raising its head behind Rita. Rita, on the other hand, did not seem to notice anything and was looking at Mia. "Rita, get out of the way." The teacher in charge saw the giant snake open its mouth wide as if it wanted to swallow Rita in one gulp. Rita raised her head and saw a bloody mouth above her head. There were also drops of mucus dripping on her body. It was very terrifying. Rita let out a shriek before her eyes rolled back and she fainted. The giant snake lowered its head and was about to swallow Rita. The battle energy teacher had already arrived in front of the snake and struck the snake's head heavily with his sword. With a clang, it was as if he had hit an iron rock. It could be seen how high the snake's defense was. The battle energy teacher was rebounded and took a few steps back. The wood elemental magician released his vines. The vines wrapped around Rita and dragged her away. "All of you, stay further away. Don't get separated," the teacher in charge said to the stunned students. The 5 teachers surrounded the giant snake. Magic battle energy smashed onto the giant snake's body. However, the giant snake spat out venom. The venom corroded the grass and leaves. If it touched the skin, it could corrode the bones and blood. Its defense was high, its body was huge, and it knew how to use venom. In a short time, even the 5 teachers could not deal with the snake. Crown Prince said, "Everyone, let's attack together." Although the students' magic was not necessarily strong, it would more or less increase the damage to the giant snake and reduce its burden. When the students saw the giant snake, they were frightened and could not release their magic. Ning Shu formed a water arrow and aimed it at the snake's eyes. The snake's eyes were covered with a thin layer of membrane. The water arrow could not pierce the snake's eyes. It could only hurt the snake a little. The giant snake swung its tail wildly in pain. When its tail hit someone, it sent them flying. The angry giant snake was even more powerful. The students were even more frightened. One by one, they threw away their armor. Crown Prince and Wakel were still holding on. The teacher in charge said to Crown Prince, "Iraq, gather the students and leave quickly." They had to fight the giant snake and take care of the students. They could not focus on the battle. Crown Prince saw the situation and did not want to disturb the teacher in charge. He quickly left with the students. Ning Shu also followed the good advice and left. However, Crown Prince looked at the unconscious Rita and was a little troubled. A boy could not carry her. Ning Shu would never carry Rita on her back. As for Mia, she was a delicate and weak girl. How could she carry someone on her back? As for the other female sorcerers, they were not close to Rita and would not carry her. Rita was so scared that she peed. Her pants were wet. Who would want to carry her? Even if a boy wanted to carry her, there was no way he could carry her in this situation. As a result, Rita was lying on the ground. Actually, everyone had another idea. They wanted to drag Rita away, but they did not say it. Rita's eyelashes were trembling. She woke up and her face was purple. She shouted in fear, "Snake, there's a snake. Mia quickly covered Rita's mouth. Don't shout. Don't attract the snake. Rita hugged Mia. You scared me to death. You scared me to death. Rita looked at Ning Shu with hatred. You did it on purpose. Ning Shu rolled her eyes. You want to wipe your pee? Why don't you look at yourself in the mirror? Rita immediately looked at her pants and clamped her legs together. Her face was so red that it was bleeding. Mia could not understand. Why did Rita blame her cousin the moment she woke up? Did her cousin do anything to her? It was not her cousin who called the snake over. If her cousin had not asked her to go over and treat her wound, she would have been as embarrassed as Rita and peed her pants. She did not want to be embarrassed like that. Luckily, her cousin called her. Everyone else's expression was indescribable. Rita was like a mad dog, determined to bite Avril. What did this have to do with Avril? He couldn't lie through his teeth, could he? It was Rita who did not like Avril. She threw all the dirty and smelly things at Avril. Even if Avril did not like Avril, Avril felt that she was being wronged. Rita said hatefully, you knew something was coming and purposely sent Mia away. You just want me to die. To watch the new chapter go to, mobile address. To watch the new chapter go to, mobile address. Chapter 37:14. Ning Shu burst out laughing. Am I that capable? Why don't you say that I was the one who called the snake over? If I were that capable, I would have called all the magical beasts in the R's great forest over and stomped you into a meat patty. Besides, your life has nothing to do with me. You can choose to die or not. I'm not going to save you. What can you do to me? Why should I save you? Who do you think you are? What the hell? Ning Shu was really annoyed with this Rita. Before she left, she might have to get rid of this Rita. Even if she couldn't get rid of her, she had to make sure that Rita didn't dare to get close to her. She even questioned her. Rita saw that Ning Shu's eyes were filled with murderous intent. You just want me to die. Ning Shu said, that's right. Then why don't you go and die? Don't provoke me. Mia couldn't help but say, Rita, stop it. In this situation, it was obvious that Rita was being unreasonable. When Rita heard this, she revealed a sad expression and looked at Mia in disbelief. How can you say that? Rita felt that she had been betrayed. How had she treated Mia? She had fought with Avril for Mia, yet Mia was behaving like this. When it was time for the duel, Rita didn't even know who to look for to replace her. What was the point of her doing all this? She was about to be eaten by the snake just now, and Mia actually told her not to say that. Rita felt terrible and looked at Mia with disappointment in her eyes. Mia was a little frightened and didn't understand why Rita was looking at her like that. Rita, alright, I'm the one who's being unreasonable. Rita shook Mia's hand off and walked away. Her pants were still dripping water. Mia hurriedly followed Rita. She didn't want her good friend to be angry, but Rita didn't care about her at all. The corners of Ning Shu's lips curled up. Rita looked so aggrieved. She was venting her anger, but at the same time, she felt that she was standing up for Mia. If Mia wasn't on her side, she would feel that everything she did wasn't worth it. She felt betrayed. Awkward. Rita probably felt like she was being slapped in the face. Mia was now in a situation where neither of them were human. It was said that it was difficult to be a good person, especially if one wanted to be a good person who took care of everything. If one didn't want to be a bad person, the outcome would often be different. Ning Shu giggled in his heart. He was in a wonderful mood. When he returned to the duel, he must beat Rita half to death. She would be bedridden for at least half a month. He wondered if Rita could find a sorcerer or a warrior to replace her. On the way back to the town, everyone was silent. They were all worried about the situation of the teacher in charge. He also realized how weak he was. Crown Prince Iraq glanced at Ning Shu and frowned. He realized that his impression of this girl might have been misled by someone else. There were some things that one would believe to be true after hearing it too much. Since everyone said the same thing, they also believed that it was true. The Crown Prince's heart trembled. This was not a good thing for him. He was the Crown Prince of a country. If someone casually whispered in his ear, he would take it seriously. This was a big problem. Ning Shu glanced at the Crown Prince and calculated in his heart. If he beat the Crown Prince half to death, it wouldn't work. He could only hit the Crown Prince's face and not hurt him. She had a strong background. She still had to consider the Earl's residence. When they returned to the inn, the students were absent-minded and looked outside. Rita went back to her room to change her clothes. Mia also followed her. Mia kept apologizing to Rita. Obviously, she didn't know what she did wrong, but there was nothing wrong with apologizing. Ning Shu ate the jerky and wondered if these two friends would reconcile. After thinking about it, Ning Shu felt that they would reconcile. Rita was too embarrassed and needed someone to accompany her. If she was alone, it would be even more awkward. Mia didn't want to lose Rita as a friend. After all, Rita was very warm-hearted and treated her well. Therefore, these two girls would still be good friends. It was none of her business who Mia wanted to be friends with. The 5 teachers came back. They all had some wounds on their bodies. Their exposed skin was stained with venom, causing it to be red and swollen. They needed to be cleaned and disinfected. Mia was in the room with the autistic Rita. The teachers came back and urgently needed medicine to cure the poison. The Crown Prince knocked on the door and asked for medicine. After a while, Mia opened the door. The Crown Prince said directly, "Hurry up and give me medicine. Teacher is poisoned." Okay. Mia took out a few bottles of medicine. This is for drinking. This is for cleaning the wounds. Iraq took the medicine downstairs and quickly distributed it to the 5 teachers. He also asked the students to help treat the wounds. Iraq asked, "Teacher, how's the snake?" "It's dead. Its defense is too strong. Also, it's poison. It's not that strong. It spat out venom like it was raining. There would always be some venom." When magic hit the snake, there was no reaction. The 3 teachers almost used up all their magic elements. They needed to use more powerful magic, but the magic consumption was high. In the end, they were too careless. The teacher said, "We'll return to school tomorrow." Hearing that they could return to school, the students were relieved. They could finally go back. Ning Shu looked at the teacher's wounds. The wounds had been cleaned and he had drunk the antidote. However, the wounds were still red and swollen. Clearly, the medicine made by Mia and Rita was not enough to treat them. They had to go back and find more advanced medicine. Iraq took out a few bottles of medicine and said, "Teacher, try this medicine. It might get better. The wounds might worsen overnight." In the end, they still needed the teacher's protection. The medicine that Iraq took out was purer and more effective. The teacher did not stand on ceremony. He drank the medicine and his pale face looked better. The next morning, they got on the back of the Ice Eagle and returned to school. Back at school, Ning Shu got off the Ice Eagle and said to the silent Rita, "I'm going to duel with you tomorrow. Get ready." Rita was so angry that she could not speak. Mia said, "Cousin, let's not duel. Rita is already very upset after what happened. Why don't we cancel the duel?" Ning Shu said, "What does what happened to her have to do with me? Also, we agreed on this before. How can we cancel the duel just like that?" Ning Shu looked at Mia. "Are you going to duel with me for her?" Mia choked. How could she fight with her cousin? However, at this time, her cousin was still thinking about the duel. She gave off the feeling that she was very unreasonable, cold, and heartless. Ning Shu was speechless. "You're going back on your words. You're so humane." Should she be considerate of Rita, who had been gossiping about her? To watch the new chapter on Zoe, please go to mobile address. To watch the new chapter on Zoe, please go to mobile address. Chapter 37:15. After the outing ended, there was a day off for the students to rest. Manda looked at Ning Shu with some disappointment. She still wanted to cultivate with Ning Shu. If everyone cultivated together, there would be more magic elements gathered around them. As long as they did not disturb each other, their cultivation speed would be faster. Manda felt that she was just a little bit away from breaking through to Mage Apprentice. However, now that the event was over, she had no reason to pester Avril. Manda mustered up her courage and said to Ning Shu, "Can I go and look for you?" Ning Shu said nonchalantly, "Sure." Manda was happy. "Go to your house to look for you." Ning Shu glanced at Manda and understood what she meant. He thought for a moment and nodded. "Sure." Manda immediately said, "All right, I'll go and look for you tomorrow." Ning Shu got into the carriage, and Mia also got into the carriage resentfully. She used her eyes to comfort Rita, who was in a bad situation. In the carriage, Mia had been looking for an opportunity to talk to Ning Shu, but he did not seem to want to talk to her, so Mia could not find a topic to talk to. The next morning, Manda arrived at the Count's mansion early. She waited in the hall cautiously and did not move at all. Mia seemed to want to snatch the servant's work again, but the servant did not dare to let Mia do it at all. He was afraid that he would have no work to do. When the Countess saw Manda, she asked reservedly, "Have you had breakfast? Do you want to eat something together?" Manda looked at the long dining table. It was extremely luxurious. There were silver candlesticks on it, fresh flowers, and a sumptuous breakfast. Manda did not even dare to look at it. She quickly waved her hand. "No need. I came over after eating. I'll just wait for Avril by the side." The Countess asked the servant to give Manda some snacks and let her eat by the side. Ning Shu went downstairs and nodded at Manda, asking her to wait for a while. At the dining table, Mia looked hesitant. From time to time, she would look at the Count and the Countess. Ning Shu glanced at Mia and did not say anything. When Mia met Ning Shu's gaze, she shivered, but she still mustered the courage to speak. Mia encouraged herself in her heart. It was all for her cousin and the Count's mansion. "Uncle, I have something to tell you," Mia said. The Count asked calmly, "What is it?" Mia gulped, took a sip of milk, and said, "Uncle, my cousin is looking for someone to duel with. She's dueling with Wakel and the Crown Prince." When the Count heard this, he didn't have much of a reaction. With the strength of a Grand Magus, no matter what kind of situation he faced, he had absolute confidence in facing it. Even if he heard that his daughter was going to duel with the Crown Prince. The Count looked at Ning Shu and asked, "Why do you want to duel?" Ning Shu put down his cutlery and looked at Mia coldly. "There are rumors about you everywhere in the school, saying that you bully the weak. Are you angry?" Mia immediately said, "Of course I'm angry." Ning Shu, "Then what are you going to do?" Mia was stunned and a little confused. I don't know, but I'll explain." Ning Shu, "What if explaining doesn't work?" Mia's expression was even more confused, but she said resolutely, "But I believe that rumors stop with the wise." Ning Shu, "Rumors don't stop with the wise. The more they spread, the more ridiculous they become." It was one thing to listen to things that had nothing to do with them, but they would even add fuel to the fire because it was interesting. Ning Shu said to the Count, "Everyone in the school is saying that I bullied Mia. Some people's attitudes are the key. I have to do something about it." The Count was still calm. "Aren't you afraid that the more you do, the more mistakes you'll make?" Ning Shu replied, of course I'm not afraid. If I let others talk nonsense and I don't do anything, I'd rather make everyone suffer. If you don't do anything and let others talk about you, they'll take it as your silence and believe it to be the truth and become more and more unrestrained. You like rumors, right? That's fine. I like to duel with people. Even if I have to talk about it in the future, I'll make it so that these people don't dare to talk nonsense in front of me and only dare to hide in dark corners and whisper in my ear. Thinking about it this way, was she the one who was lamentable, or those who only dared to talk nonsense in dark corners? Mia, my cousin is so cruel. Suddenly, she felt that her cousin was surrounded by a black demonic aura and even had demon horns on her head. That expression of a smile that was not a smile was terrifying. The countess frowned and asked, "Why is there such a rumor in the school?" Ning Shu brushed her hair. "Probably because your daughter is too outstanding and beautiful. She's envied and hated. Only mediocre people don't hate her. Mother, you should be proud of your daughter." Speechless by her daughter's sudden narcissism, the countess said to Mia, "Have you explained this matter for your cousin?" "Mia, I have. I've been explaining." She looked a little uneasy. "But it seems that no one believes me." "Ning Shu, everyone believes what they think." The countess narrowed her eyes and looked between her daughter and Mia. She didn't say anything else. The count said to his daughter, "Do whatever you want. Just be careful." Ning Shu smiled and clasped her hands together. "Thank you, father." Mia was depressed and felt very awkward. She didn't know where the awkwardness came from. Anyway, she felt that her uncle and aunt were acting strangely. Her uncle didn't stop her cousin from dueling with others. After breakfast, Ning Shu said to Manda, "Come to my room and cultivate together." Manda put down the dessert in her hand. Ning Shu glanced at the dessert on the table. "Bring it to the room together." Manda obediently carried the plate and followed Ning Shu upstairs. Mia sighed. If she was a mage, she might be able to meditate with her cousin. After a day off, Mia, who had nothing to do, didn't know what to do. Ever since her cousin said that she wasn't allowed to do anything in the kitchen, she couldn't make any pastries to pass the time. Mia returned to her room and began to read books on potions. Ning Shu said to Manda, "Finish the dessert and we'll cultivate." Manda hurriedly finished the pastry, wiped the pastry crumbs from her mouth, and said, "Let's begin." Ning Shu got onto the bed and patted the spot next to him. "Come on up." Manda, the two of them fell into meditation. Ning Shu was multitasking. He absorbed magic elements and spiritual energy to nourish his body. He wanted to be a close combat mage. After cultivating like this, they cultivated until the sky turned dark. When they woke up, they were extremely hungry. Manda had broken through to a magic apprentice and become a beginner mage. She could be considered a slightly decent mage. After becoming a beginner mage, Manda could receive a subsidy of 8 silver coins from the Guild of Magic every month. Manda's family was not well off. 8 silver coins could make her family better. Manda was very happy and excited. Ning Shu thanked her. "Avril, thank you." Chapter 37:16. Because it was dark, the Countess told Manda to stay at the Earl's residence. It was not safe to go back too late. However, Manda was worried about the situation at home. If she did not return at night, her family would be worried. The Countess sent 2 gardeners to send her back. It was dangerous for girls to go out at night. During dinner, Ning Shu said to the Earl, "Father, I've broken through the beginner level and become a high-level magician." The Earl was very happy and smiled. "Not bad, not bad. Don't be proud. Continue to cultivate. It's probably not easy to break through to the high-level magician level. It will take a long time." Although the Earl told Ning Shu not to be proud, he drank a few glasses of red wine. Mia suppressed the disappointment in her heart. Congratulations, cousin. Ning Shu nodded. I have a better chance of winning in a duel like this. Mia was speechless. Mia asked, cousin, are you going to duel with Rita tomorrow? Ning Shu nodded. Of course, she was going to duel. Mia bit her lip and said to Ning Shu, I want to fight in Rita's place and duel with you. The dinner table was silent for a few seconds. The Earl and his wife could not help but stare at Mia. Being stared at by 3 pairs of eyes, Mia's heart beat much faster. The Earl said in a low voice, why do you want to fight in her place? You don't have magic. You're not your cousin's match. Mia said, Rita is my friend. I can't just sit by and watch. Ning Shu smiled. He did not know if it was a coincidence or if Mia had thought of this idea, but she had really broken Ning Shu's trap. If Mia really fought in Rita's place and people saw that she beat Mia up like a dog, wouldn't it confirm the rumors that Ariel had bullied Mia? And it would be in front of everyone. Her duels with the Crown Prince and Wakel would become meaningless. So what if she won against the Crown Prince and Wakel? Mia was probably just doing it for the sake of friendship. Perhaps she felt that her cousin had to go easy on her. The Count frowned and said, Mia, don't interfere in this matter. But Mia still wanted to say something, but she was interrupted by the Earl. If you don't want the school to be filled with rumors about your cousin, if you don't want conflicts between your friends and your cousin, and if you don't want to be stuck in the middle, then don't get involved, understand? Towards the end, the Earl's voice became much more stern. Of course, he had to side with his daughter. The way he looked at Mia was so deep that it made her feel uneasy. The Countess smiled and said, a duel won't kill anyone. At the end of the day, it's just an exchange between students. Don't worry, Mia, it's not a big deal. But Rita did not know magic and was unarmed. She could not duel with her cousin. Obviously, her uncle and aunt would not let her take Rita's place in the duel. Mia felt wronged and wanted to cry for some reason. She poked at the food on her plate with her fork and lowered her head without saying a word. The Count and the Countess looked at each other and couldn't help but frown. Taking in an orphan girl like Mia seemed to be doing a good thing, but if some things were not handled well, a good thing might turn into a bad thing. They might even become enemies. It was hard to be a good person. If they let Mia go now, the Earl's residence would be bullying an orphan girl. At that time, no one would remember that the Earl's residence had adopted Mia. They would only remember that the Earl's residence had chased Mia away, and they would definitely become enemies. It was like tofu falling into a pile of ashes. They couldn't blow it or hit it. She wasn't their biological child, so they could hit her however they wanted. But she wasn't their own after all, so it was hard to deal with. Ning Shu returned to his room after eating and continued to cultivate. The next day, Mia said that she wasn't feeling well and wouldn't be going to school. Ning Shu didn't mind. She probably didn't want to see her good friend duel with her cousin. After Ning Shu got into the carriage and walked for a while, Mia rushed to catch up with him, saying that she wanted to go to school and that she had recovered. Ning Shu couldn't be bothered with Mia. If she wanted to go, then go. If she didn't want to go, then forget it. During lunch break, Ning Shu went to the alchemy class to find Rita for a duel. However, he was told that Rita wasn't feeling well and didn't come to school. Rita's excuse of not feeling well was just an excuse. Rita had escaped at the last minute. Ning Shu didn't care. Without Rita, there were still others. Ning Shu found Wakel and said, let's duel. Wakel's face was expressionless, but his body was filled with killing intent. Sure. Ning Shu and Wakel stood facing each other in the duel arena. This time, Wakel didn't underestimate his opponent. He immediately pulled out the sword on his back. Ning Shu also pulled out his wand, which was embedded with a magic crystal. After becoming an advanced rank magic caster, he could cast many spells. Moreover, After cultivating for a period of time, he believed that he would be able to completely crush Wakel. After pulling out his sword, Wakel's aura became even more terrifying. Even the spectators felt that Wakel was like a god of war descending. The Crown Prince frowned. Mia looked at the Crown Prince and asked, "Your Highness, who do you think will win?" One was her cousin, and the other was her friend. Sigh. The Crown Prince said, "It should be Wakel. He's already an advanced rank warrior and has been cultivating his battle chi recently. Wakel was a magic caster and couldn't fight in close combat. If he did, he probably wouldn't even be able to cast any spells." Mia was even more worried. Her cousin was such a proud person. If she lost, she would definitely be sad. Wakel took the initiative to attack. Wielding his sword, he quickly flashed to Ning Shu's side. Ning Shu raised his staff and released a curtain of water, which temporarily blocked Wakel's vision. Ning Shu quickly dodged and nimbly appeared behind Wakel. He kicked Wakel. Wakel turned around, and Ning Shu punched him in the face. After being tempered by peerless martial arts, Ning Shu's body and bones had become much tougher. Even if it was a fist, it would hurt a lot more when it hit a person's body. After being punched, Wakel's anger and killing intent surged. His eyes turned red, and his battle chi solidified. As he raised his great sword, the image of a roaring dragon appeared behind him. The dragon had 2 wings, and its eyes burned with red flames. It roared and charged at Ning Shu. Ning Shu hurriedly dodged to avoid being knocked down by the attack. At the same time, he also operated his peerless martial art. The chi of the peerless martial art transformed into a golden 5-clawed giant dragon and rushed towards the giant dragon. The 2 dragons collided with each other, and the force of the collision set off layer after layer of shockwaves. It was deafening. What was going on? The spectators were flabbergasted. What kind of magic was Avril using? It didn't seem like magic, but more like battle chi. To view the new chapter, please go to mobile address. To view the new chapter, please go to mobile address. Chapter 37:17. Ning Shu and Wacker were both affected by the shockwave and were knocked back. They barely managed to stabilize themselves. Ning Shu rubbed his chest. "My chest, it hurts." Wacker was clearly confused by Ning Shu's sudden attack. What kind of magic was this? He didn't feel any water vapor. It didn't feel as wet as water magic. Ning Shu took advantage of Wacker's stupor to charge in front of him. He aimed a heavy punch at Wacker's face, causing him to stumble and fall to the ground. Ning Shu didn't hold back. He went up with both hands and pummeled Wacker's face. This time, Ning Shu didn't hold back at all. He aimed directly at the vital parts of Wacker's face, lips, and lips. However, this was enough to make Wacker suffer. Wacker's head was dizzy from the beating. He couldn't fight back at all. He was like a helpless sandbag, allowing Ning Shu to beat him. As long as Wacker didn't admit defeat, Ning Shu wouldn't stop. Wacker's face swelled up at a visible rate. It was unrecognizable. He looked like a pig's head. In addition to his face, Ning Shu also punched his body. The audience was speechless. From the looks of it, Avril seemed more like a warrior than a magician. The Crown Prince saw how swollen Wacker's face was. He probably couldn't even admit defeat. He immediately admitted defeat for Wacker. Wacker admits defeat. Ning Shu stopped. He wiped his face and grimaced. It hurts. Everyone was speechless. Wacker was in a lot of pain. Wacker stumbled to his feet. He tried to open his eyes and look at Ning Shu. His eyelids were swollen. If he didn't open them, his vision would be blurry. Wacker gritted his teeth and said fiercely, "I won't admit defeat. I definitely won't." The dragon image behind Wakel grew even larger, and the heavy pressure it exuded caused the audience to tremble uncontrollably. Wakell was going to be a dragon knight in the future, so the battle chi he cultivated was compatible with dragons. As long as the time was right, Wakell would form a contract with a dragon. Previously, Wakell hadn't revealed his true strength. Now, he was going to reveal his trump card. The dragon behind him roared as Ning Shu rushed over. His powerful move directly destroyed the duel arena. It formed a long and deep ravine. Faced with such a situation, Ning Shu didn't dare to be careless. Standing atop the five-clawed golden dragon's back, he flew into the air to avoid being hit by Wakker's attack. How painful would it be to be hit by such a ferocious move? At the same time, Ning Shu condensed a dense swarm of water arrows and shot them at Wacker. Wacker dodged nimbly, but there were too many of them and he was hit. However, he used his Do Chi to form a shield and blocked some of the water arrows. After unleashing such a powerful attack, Wakell's complexion looked quite tired. Clearly, this attack had taken quite a toll on him, especially since Ning Shu had dodged it. This dealt a heavy blow to Wakell's mental state. Ning Shu had originally wanted to fight the Crown Prince after his duel with Wakell, but now that he thought about it, even Wakell had been hiding a lot of power, let alone the Crown Prince of a country. She definitely had a lot of resources, such as magic robes and defensive equipment. She had used up a lot of them, so it would be difficult for her to fight the Crown Prince. Ning Shu wanted an overwhelming victory. He didn't want to be beaten half to death and unable to win. Since Wakell had unleashed such a powerful attack, Ning Shu returned the favor and released a water-type spell. He summoned the water sprite and bound Wakell. The water sprite was a sprite made of water. It tightly bound Wakell, making him unable to move. Next, Ning Shu used Water Dragon Spike, attacking with a powerful pillar of water. The Water Dragon Spike spun, its tip like a screw, and shot towards Wakell. Wakell couldn't dodge and was struck head-on, taking the full brunt of the attack. Then, he fainted. The rescue team hurried over to check on Wakell's condition and gave him medicine. Regardless of his injuries, he had to drink medicine that reduced his injuries first. Wakell was placed on a stretcher and carried away. Ning Shu waved from the dueling platform. "Thank you for your support. Of course, the most important thing is still my own efforts." Everyone was speechless. Then, applause rang out. No matter what, the victor deserved applause. However, many people looked at Ning Shu with fear in their eyes. Ning Shu left the dueling platform. Mia handed Ning Shu the medicine and asked, "Cousin, are you hurt? Drink some medicine." The medicine could relieve fatigue, so Ning Shu didn't refuse. He drank it and walked over to the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince narrowed his eyes and looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu said, "Your Highness, don't forget our agreement. When you set a date, just let me know." Ning Shu felt that he should practice more magic. He'd only summoned the water fairy and used some other magic, but his body was empty of magic elements. He had to find a way to store more magic elements. The Crown Prince wanted to roll his eyes. This was a challenge. She hadn't given up yet. The Crown Prince knew what Ariel was thinking. After defeating Wakell and himself, she would step on them and see who would dare to say anything. Even though he knew her intentions, the Crown Prince couldn't refuse. He couldn't advance or retreat. If he didn't fight, he would be seen as a coward. Since she wanted to fight, then so be it. The Crown Prince said coldly, "Wait. I'll let you know." Ning Shu didn't care about the Crown Prince's cold expression. "Okay, then I'll wait for your notice. Let me know when you set a date so I can prepare. Of course, when you hit someone, you hit their face." Wakell's face would probably be bruised for at least half a month. Ning Shu smiled faintly at the Crown Prince, revealing his teeth that were reflecting light. He looked like an evil villain. The Crown Prince laughed in his heart, but at the same time, he was worried about his face. When the time came, he had to protect his face no matter what. The Crown Prince walked away. Anyone could see that he was angry. Manda said to Ning Shu worriedly, "He's the Crown Prince. Wasn't he afraid that the royal family would take revenge?" Ning Shu said, "We're just interacting and increasing our strength. What does this have to do with the Crown Prince's identity?" Although he said that, when Iraq's identity was revealed, it made people shrink back, especially commoners like Manda. They had a natural fear of the royal family and nobles. Manda definitely wouldn't dare to fight Iraq. He didn't even want to get too close to a noble. He couldn't afford to offend them. Manda was a bit envious of Ning Shu. He had a noble father and great strength. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 37:18. Ning Shu did not have such worries. Anyway, the Earl had already told her to do as she saw fit. It was a fight between the younger generation. If the elders got involved, it would be a little degrading. The Earl was probably thinking that as long as it was not his own child who was wronged, it would be fine. Mia sighed. Her brain could not process why her uncle allowed her cousin to mess around. At the same time, she felt a little sour. If her father was still here, he would probably love her like this and support her unconditionally. Ning Shu rested for a while. When he felt that his body was not so tired, he returned to the classroom. Weikel's seat was empty. He heard that Weikel had been sent home for treatment. Under all kinds of gazes, Ning Shu sat in his seat. Ning Shu liked these gazes. Even if they were fearful, it was better to make people fearful than to make people think that he was easy to bully. Everyone liked to bully people who were nice to them. After school, Mia said to Ning Shu, "Cousin, I'm not going home with you today." Ning Shu asked, "Then how are you going back?" Mia said, "Rita isn't feeling well. I'm going to see her. I'll go back by myself later." Ning Shu naturally would not object. Mia could do whatever she wanted. If he objected, it would be a hindrance to Mia, and he would have a bad reputation. "All right, take care of yourself." Ning Shu closed the carriage door and urged the coachman to leave. Mia was speechless. Watching the carriage leave, Mia stopped in her tracks. She had an indescribable feeling. It was desolation and a sense of grievance. Even though her cousin did not stop her from seeing Rita and seemed to treat her very well, she also felt that she did not really care about her. If she did, she would definitely be unhappy that she went to see Rita. After all, Rita had a conflict with her cousin. Sigh, Mia felt a little worried and an indescribable sadness. An inexplicable sadness. When Ning Shu returned home, she went to find the Earl and said, "Father, I fought with Weikel today and won." The Count had already seen it through the memory crystal, but someone had recorded it using the memory crystal. After that, someone had sent it to him immediately. After watching the duel, the Earl was very happy, but he also had some doubts. It was normal for his daughter to use magic. After all, she had always been a magician. However, she had used fighting aura. She had cultivated fighting aura. The Count's expression was a little serious. It wasn't that no one wanted to cultivate both magic and combat aura at the same time. They wanted to covet both, but in the end, both became useless. It took a long time to absorb magical elements through meditation. The Count took out the memory crystal. "I saw the scene of your duel. Are you cultivating your doqi?" Ning Shu nodded and said, "Father, I want to be a close combat magician. I practice fighting aura to strengthen my body, but my main goal is to practice magic. It's good that you know what's important. As a magician accumulates, a powerful spell can destroy the world. Don't lose the big picture for the small things," the Earl said. Ning Shu nodded. It seemed that she had to leave behind the ultimate martial arts so that the person who had entrusted her with it could also practice it. He didn't expect her to benefit greatly, but it was fine as long as she didn't waste it. Perhaps she could even contribute a portion of faith to the ultimate martial arts. The Count asked, I heard that you're going to challenge the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince has always been low-key. He's even stronger than Wakell. Also, the Crown Prince is a magician. He's an ice magician. He's your bane, the Count said. When you release water magic, it can directly freeze your water. Also, the temperature is very low. It has a great impact on the combatants. Ice magic could be said to be very powerful magic. Also, the royal family had a lot of resources. How could they be stingy with the cultivation of a country's heir? Not to mention the Crown Prince, even the other princes weren't weak. The Count asked, when are you going to duel the Crown Prince? Ning Shu said, I don't know. The Crown Prince will inform me. The Count took out a magic robe and said, wear this when you meditate. It can speed up your cultivation. Then, I'll make you a magic wand. Ning Shu said with a smile, thank you, father. After all, this was a world where the strong were respected. Only strength was absolute. The Count didn't care much about the Crown Prince's identity. He was still thinking of a way for his daughter to win the duel. Ning Shu took the robe and returned to his room to cultivate. He wrote down the cultivation method of the ultimate martial arts, then put on the magic robe and began to cultivate. Ning Shu didn't dare to underestimate the Crown Prince's strength. Besides, the Crown Prince was an ice magician. He could freeze her into an ice sculpture. There was no room for resistance. So, he had to work hard. The Crown Prince didn't duel immediately, probably because he wanted to make preparations. At dinner, Mia wasn't at the table. Ning Shu asked, and the Countess said, Mia is at a friend's house. She won't be back today. Oh, Ning Shu replied and threw it to the back of her mind. The next day, Ning Shu ran into Mia and Rita at the school gate. Rita looked dispirited and there were dark circles under her eyes. When she saw Ning Shu come down from the carriage, she wanted to say something, but she was afraid of something and swallowed her words. This was the effect Ning Shu wanted. He wanted to beat her until she didn't dare to say anything. Ning Shu said to Rita, don't forget about our duel. When is it? Rita's face turned pale. Yesterday, she had heard about the duel between Avril and Wakell from Mia. She had seen the scene in the memory crystal. Rita felt as if her two legs were trembling. That thick and solid water dragon Spike was punching Wakell's face again and again. Seeing Wakell's nose bleeding and the corner of his mouth bleeding, Rita didn't even dare to take a second look. Even Wakell was beaten so badly. Rita didn't have any magic or battle energy. She could only stand and take the beating. Plus, Avril was so violent that Rita couldn't find a magician or warrior to replace her. Who would be willing to take the beating? It was painful and embarrassing. Rita didn't know what to do. Now that Avril said she wanted to duel, Rita could only cower. She didn't even dare to breathe loudly or speak loudly to Ning Shu. In the past, whenever Rita ran into Avril, she would mock her and say that Avril bullied Mia. Now that Ning Shu was really bullying her, Rita didn't dare to say anything. She didn't even dare to come close. When she saw Ning Shu, she would only stay far away. Ning Shu said, I'm a democratic person. Let me know when you want to duel. Rita, I didn't agree to duel with you. Rita tried to refuse the duel. Ning Shu smiled and said, it's okay. I'll keep challenging you until you agree. Rita. To watch the new chapter, please go to mobile address. Chapter 37:19. Rita pulled Mia and ran away. Ning Shu laughed. Actually, she didn't really want to duel with Rita. There was no point in dueling with Rita. However, this was a good reason to shut Rita up. As long as she said the word duel, Rita would immediately cower. She wouldn't even dare to approach her. When Ning Shu arrived at the classroom, Crown Prince Iraq said, "Let's duel." Ning Shu paused for a moment before nodding. "Let's duel." Ning Shu and Crown Prince walked in front, followed by a group of onlookers. Some people even spread the news that Crown Prince Iraq and Ariel were dueling. There were even bets on who would win between Crown Prince Iraq and Ariel. Because Ning Shu had shown off his skills, many students supported Ning Shu. Crown Prince was a bit mysterious. They only knew that he was an ice magician. It was said that he was very strong, but they didn't know how strong he was. Also, it was hard to say what trump cards he had. The support rate between the two was about the same, 50-50. Ning Shu and Crown Prince stood on the dueling platform. The bruised and swollen Weikel also came to school. His arm was still wrapped in bandages and hung around his neck. He looked at the dueling platform. When the people around him saw Weikel like this, they all looked at him with sympathy. Ariel was really too violent. She was like a female T-Rex. She would beat anyone she caught. Weikel's face was too horrible to look at. Ning Shu first used water arrows to test the waters. Densely packed water arrows shot towards Crown Prince. Iraq didn't move. When the water arrows were about to hit him, they all froze and fell to the ground, breaking into several pieces. Ning Shu didn't feel anything. He knew that Iraq was an ice magician. This kind of ice magician was a mutated magic. Naturally, it was stronger than normal magic. Moreover, ice magicians countered water magicians. Ning Shu took out his dazzling staff and summoned a water spirit. The water spirit pounced towards Iraq. Behind Iraq, an ice spirit covered in frost appeared. With a point of its finger, it froze Ning Shu's water spirit. This was restraint. Ning Shu then released his water dragon thorn, and a thick water column pierced towards Iraq. Iraq was as immovable as a mountain as he froze the water column. In any case, Ning Shu's water-type magic was basically useless against ice-type magic. No matter what move he used, it would be useless as soon as it was frozen. Moreover, Iraq was clearly an advanced magician, perhaps even higher than that. This was a clash of magic, and it was incomparably dazzling. Iraq let out a breath, waiting for Ning Shu to admit defeat. Iraq clearly didn't want to use his trump card. Ning Shu looked at Iraq's clothes. They were clearly defensive equipment. It would be difficult to press Iraq to the ground. Ning Shu felt that his water magic was probably useless, so he could only rely on his peerless martial arts. Ning Shu put away his wand. Iraq looked and frowned. She still wasn't going to stop. Iraq wanted to stop this battle, but it was impossible for him to admit defeat. Even if he was beaten half to death and unconscious, he couldn't admit defeat. This was determined by his will and status. However, his opponent didn't seem to want to admit defeat. It seemed that he had to use his battle aura. The Crown Prince didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He sighed. At this moment, a subordinate ran onto the platform with a huge sword and respectfully presented it to the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince grabbed the hilt, and the person left the platform. Ning Shu narrowed his eyes. He immediately realized that the Crown Prince Iraq probably also cultivated battle aura. He was a dual cultivator of both battle aura and magic. As expected, he hit it well. Outsiders only knew that the Crown Prince was a magic caster, but they didn't know that he could use battle aura. And that sword wasn't ordinary either. Ning Shu stretched his neck. It seemed that he had to be very serious. Otherwise, he might not be able to defeat the Crown Prince. She had only been here for a short time. This mission wasn't too big, but it wasn't too small either. After all, it would affect the life of the person who entrusted it. It would become a completely different life. Thus, victory or defeat depended on this. The Crown Prince gently said to Ning Shu, "The purpose of a duel is to interact with each other. Admit defeat." Ning Shu was expressionless. Why aren't you the one admitting defeat? You want to save face, but I don't. The Crown Prince, fine, they still had to fight. The Crown Prince said, pay attention. Ning Shu, okay. The Crown Prince's body was covered in battle aura. It was even more powerful than Wakel's. In other words, the Crown Prince was not only talented in magic, but also in martial arts. It was no wonder that he was chosen as the Crown Prince. In a world where the strong were respected, if a country's ruler was powerful, wouldn't that be a form of intimidation? Ning Shu let out a breath. A smile appeared on his face. This was also good. He would fight with all his strength, no matter the result. The Crown Prince's figure was nimble. He raised his sword and slashed at Ning Shu. Ning Shu quickly dodged. With the support of his mental strength, he could sense any of the Crown Prince's movements. In reality, Ning Shu could have used his mental strength to attack the Crown Prince, but he didn't want to make things too troublesome. He just used a normal method. The two exchanged moves at an extremely fast speed. The audience was dazzled by the movements. They felt like their eyes weren't enough. They craned their necks to look. Although they couldn't see anything, they could feel that neither of them could do anything to the other. The Crown Prince's battle aura was very powerful and domineering. It carried an oppressive feeling that made people feel fear. Under this kind of might, it was very difficult to resist. It was probably some powerful battle aura manual. Ning Shu didn't feel anything. Her peerless martial arts were like a world, although it was an empty world. However, it was very tiring. Could they keep fighting like this? The sword and saber collided. The two of them were both forced back a few steps. The Crown Prince's expression was grave. He hadn't expected this girl's battle aura to be so strong. If it wasn't for the fact that her water magic was countered by his, he might have lost. The Crown Prince was very diligent on the path of cultivation. Apart from cultivation, there were many things he needed to learn. Outsiders only saw the Crown Prince's noble status, but they didn't know how much effort he had put in. This was especially true when it came to cultivating both battle aura and magic. Some people found it difficult to progress on a single path. The Crown Prince decided to use both battle aura and magic. When he charged at Ning Shu, he directly froze Ning Shu's feet. He wanted to make sure she couldn't move. Hurry up and end the duel. The Crown Prince was eager to win. Ning Shu paid close attention to him. Seeing the fluctuations of magic elements around him, she knew that the Crown Prince was going to use ice magic. She immediately flipped and jumped into the air. She stood on top of the dragon-shaped aura to prevent herself from being hit by ice magic. The Crown Prince was disappointed, but he wasn't discouraged. To view the new chapter of Zoe, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3720. The Crown Prince unleashed an enormous battle aura that blotted out the sun. The dazzling light made it hard for anyone to open their eyes. Ning Shu quickly dodged the attack and took advantage of the time to appear behind the Crown Prince. He kicked the Crown Prince's back. Such a dazzling light would cause the enemy to have a blind spot, but it also had a drawback. The Crown Prince also had a temporary blind spot. Ning Shu had the support of his psychic energy and could accurately capture the Crown Prince's figure. The Crown Prince staggered, not daring to turn around. He could imagine that if he turned around, he would definitely be met with a fist. After watching Avril and Wakel's two duels, the Crown Prince had a certain understanding of Avril. She seemed to like to hit people's faces. If she could hit someone's face, she definitely wouldn't hit anywhere else. The Crown Prince didn't want to follow in Wakel's footsteps. At the same time, he felt a bit amused. Why did he have to compete with a girl like this? The Crown Prince immediately distanced himself from Ning Shu and raised his hand as if to compromise. He said, "I've lost. You're very strong. Ning Shu's breath was stuck in his throat. He couldn't spit it out or swallow it. He finally understood how Wakal felt. Ning Shu smiled sinisterly. Your Highness, you didn't even try your best. We have to work hard to bring out our strength. Only then can we communicate and improve. The Crown Prince said, I've already improved. That's all. Avril, you're very strong. Ning Shu gritted his teeth. Thank you for the praise. You're very strong too. This was a bit biased from Ning Shu's plan. It wasn't that it was biased, but rather, it was very different. He didn't even give the Crown Prince a pair of panda eyes. The Crown Prince jumped off the dueling platform, tossed his sword to the servant, and walked away confidently. Ning Shu was disappointed. He was afraid that the Crown Prince wouldn't accept his duel next time. The Crown Prince had actually escaped unscathed. This made Ning Shu very unhappy. How infuriating. Where was the dignity of the imperial family? How could he just admit defeat like that? Where was the dignity of a magician and a warrior? Ning Shu also jumped off the dueling platform and caught up to Iraq. Your Highness, let's duel next time. Everyone can improve together. A helpless expression appeared on Iraq's face as he said, Can I apologize to you? Ning Shu played dumb. What apology? Your Highness, what did you do wrong for you to apologize to me? Iraq was speechless. Iraq said, We shouldn't have expressed our opinions on things we don't know. I'm very sorry. Ning Shu smiled faintly. What if I don't accept? Your Highness, if you really want to apologize, then draw your sword. Let's improve each other and let me realize my shortcomings. That's the greatest help you can give me. Put a band-aid on the wound and the wound would disappear. The Crown Prince's face was bitter. Let's talk about it next time. Ning Shu nodded. I'll let you know the exact time. Crown Prince was speechless. I didn't agree. Ning Shu felt that he should continue cultivating. Otherwise, he would have no chance of winning against the Crown Prince. He would have to use the most ordinary method. Before he left, he pressed the Crown Prince to the ground and rubbed him. There would be plenty of time in the future. Ning Shu smiled. Devil horns seemed to have sprouted from his head again. Wakal had already given up on trying to get back at him. He didn't want to be beaten black and blue again. Even after drinking the medicine, the bruises on his skin wouldn't disappear so easily. The Crown Prince was smart. He admitted defeat without hesitation. Ning Shu felt that this matter was probably coming to an end. This rumor had more or less been forgotten. It wasn't a big deal to spread it in private, but they shouldn't do it in front of her. Mia heaved a sigh of relief. She thought that the Crown Prince would also be beaten black and blue. That would be terrible. Fortunately, her cousin wasn't hurt either. After that, Ning Shu clearly felt that her classmates' attitudes toward her had changed. At the very least, they were showing her the respect she deserved. As for Rita, she ran away like a mouse with her tail between her legs when she saw Mia. The Count watched the playful duel and said to Ning Shu, Neither of you used your full strength. Ning Shu said, I was about to use my full strength. The Crown Prince admitted defeat. Mia, however, felt that this was good. Everyone was harmonious. There was no need to beat each other up. Of course, this was just a thought. Mia, who didn't have much fighting strength, naturally hoped for peace. Everyone lived in harmony without disputes. The Count glanced at his daughter and niece. The Crown Prince is going to choose a consort. All the noble ladies of the right age have to submit their names. I've put both you and Mia up. Ning Shu almost rolled her eyes. What did the Crown Prince's consort selection have to do with her? She said, Father, why did you put my name up? Mia was also very uneasy. That's right, Uncle. How could you report my name? Mia knew that she was an orphan with no one to rely on. There was no way she could become the crown prince's consort. Moreover, the count said, "What are you thinking? You make it sound like the crown prince is going to choose the two of you. All the noble ladies of the right age have to be put up. It's just a name. Don't worry, the crown prince won't choose our two ladies." Ning Shu asked, "Why?" "The royal family won't let our count's residence produce a crown prince's consort." "It's just a procedure," the count said indifferently. Ning Shu's mind immediately filled in. Could it be that the count's residence was so powerful that the royal family was afraid of them? Ning Shu asked, "Father, what did our count's residence do to make the royal family afraid of us?" The count had a "What are you thinking about?" look on his face. "The royal family doesn't like our family. Besides, I don't plan to marry you into the royal family." Ning Shu nodded. He thought that the count's residence was so powerful that it overshadowed the royal family. As expected, he was thinking too much. Mia heaved a sigh of relief and was a little disappointed. The crown prince was holding the name list and looking at the names. The emperor was urging him. "Which one do you like?" The crown prince's heart was in a mess. He was holding a name list and asking him to choose the future crown prince's consort. He was drunk. Could it be that he had to choose whoever he chose? He didn't even know some of the names on the list. The crown prince flipped through the name list. He recognized some of the names and some of the names he didn't. When he saw Avril and Mia's names, he thought for a while and said, "This one." The crown prince pointed at Mia's name. The crown prince thought of Mia's background and guessed that the emperor wouldn't agree. His finger moved up and pointed at Avril's name. "This one then." Pointing at this name, the crown prince was a little regretful. Wouldn't he be challenged every day? It was too annoying. The emperor looked at the name, Count's Residence, and shook his head. "This one won't do." The crown prince said directly, "Then, father, please make the decision." The crown prince understood his marriage and didn't feel much about it. The emperor stroked his beard. "Which one do you like?" The crown prince, he didn't even know them, but he liked them just by looking at their names. To watch the new chapter of Zoe, please go to mobile address. Chapter 37:21. The crown prince was about to go bald from worrying about the concubine selection, but the emperor was just watching and waiting for his reply. The crown prince really didn't know the ladies of the noble families. He was really too busy. He had to cultivate magic, battle energy, and learn how to deal with government affairs. He couldn't wait to use all his sleeping time to cultivate. The crown prince sighed. At least give him a portrait, some description, or a name. It was simply inhumane to just let him choose. The crown prince had no choice but to let the emperor point him out. The crown prince was very tired of guessing. The emperor said, "I'm not the one choosing the concubine. You choose the concubine." The crown prince, "Father, I really don't know who to choose. Why don't I put it aside for a while and think about it?" The emperor didn't force him. "Okay, think about it. Tell me when you've decided." The crown prince sighed. He didn't have any expectations for the concubine selection. It was nothing more than a journey in life. He needed a woman to accompany him and carry on the family line. Lightless wind, flower, snow, and moon. And this woman had to be worthy of him. Ning Shu went to school with Mia as usual. Mia asked Ning Shu, "Cousin, what kind of concubine do you think the crown prince will choose?" "Ning Shu, what does it have to do with me?" Ning Shu said, "Ask him." "I don't know." Mia asked again, "Cousin, do you want to be the crown prince's concubine?" Ning Shu, "No, do you?" "Mia, how can someone like me be the crown prince's concubine?" She only said that her status wasn't good enough and didn't say whether she wanted it or not. In other words, she still wanted it. That was right. The crown prince's status was still very attractive, especially his strength. Strength, status, and good looks. The crown prince had good genes. If a woman wanted to raise a good next generation, her genes must also be good. And it wasn't something shameful to want to be the crown prince's concubine. Ning Shu didn't want to be the crown prince's concubine because she had a grudge with the crown prince. She didn't want to cause trouble for the person who entrusted her. And the earl's father said that the royal family didn't like their family. Even the earl's family didn't like them. Ning Shu felt that Mia's chances of becoming the crown prince's concubine were slim. Mia also understood this matter in her heart and sighed rather melancholically. When they reached the school gate, Ning Shu and Mia got out of the car and pretended to bump into the crown prince, who got out of the car in front of them. When Iraq saw Ning Shu and Mia, he paused. Speaking of which, Iraq didn't know many girls in this school because he didn't care about them at all. He only focused on cultivation. He had gotten to know Ning Shu and Mia because of Weikel. The crown prince thought for a moment and walked toward the two of them. Mia's breathing was a little hurried as she moved behind Ning Shu. Ning Shu looked up at the crown princess and asked with a smile, "Does the crown princess want to have a duel with me to discuss magic?" The crown prince's footsteps paused, and his expression was somewhat vexed. Stiffly, he turned around and left. Ning Shu didn't care about the crown prince. Mia looked at the crown prince's back. What did the crown prince want to say just now? Ning Shu bid farewell to Mia and went to the classroom. Weikel came to class with a bruised nose and a swollen face. Actually, it wasn't that bad. His face was a little bruised, but the swelling had subsided. When Weikel saw Ning Shu, he looked away. Ning Shu was very satisfied. This person didn't go to her and threaten her not to bully Mia. This was the effect she wanted. As for throwing a tantrum, she didn't care at all. No matter how you throw a tantrum, you have to admit that you lost to me. I'll let you be the center of the funeral. Weikel was speechless. Every time he saw her like that, his liver hurt. Weikel felt that he had been a good person for nothing. He had fought and stood up for her, but in the end, it was a matter between sisters. In the morning, he saw the two sisters going to school together and sitting in the same car. So he had been beaten up for nothing. After all this time, Weikel didn't know what he had done. He was speechless. In any case, Weikel didn't know that he believed that Ariel had bullied Mia. He didn't doubt it at all. After being beaten twice, Weikel's mind was clearer than ever. Clearly, hitting her face each time was intentional revenge. Women were petty, very petty. You couldn't mess with them. Especially a woman who was like a female T-Rex. Weikel admitted defeat, but he wasn't willing to just let it go. However, he couldn't beat her for now. Still, Weikel wanted to get back at her. If he didn't beat her once, this matter wouldn't end. It had nothing to do with those rumors anymore. Ning Shu noticed that whether it was during class or after class, there would always be a gaze on her. She scanned with her spiritual power. It was Crown Prince Iraq. Ning Shu was puzzled. What was Crown Prince holding back? Did he want to fight with her? Ning Shu didn't take the initiative to look for Crown Prince. Instead, she waited for him. Judging from his constipated look, he definitely couldn't hold it in for long. As expected, not long after class, Crown Prince came to Ning Shu and said, "Let's go outside. I have something to tell you." Various thoughts flashed through Ning Shu's mind as he followed Crown Prince to a place with fewer people. Ning Shu looked at Crown Prince and didn't speak. Crown Prince patted the back of his head and said, "Are you going to get married?" Ning Shu, fucking retard. Ning Shu looked at Crown Prince expressionlessly. Crown Prince said again, "Then is Mia getting married?" Ning Shu, fucking idiot. Crown Prince said, "My father wants me to find a wife. I don't know any other girls, so I asked you and Mia." Ning Shu, "Sorry, she's not getting married." You still want a Huang and vying. You're probably living in a dream. Ning Shu wanted to arrange for Crown Prince to be cremated. Crown Prince, are you going to be Crown Princess? Crown Prince thought for a moment. Avril was a suitable candidate. Her father was an earl and she wasn't weak. She could be Crown Princess. Also, she was a magician. This way, their children would have a higher chance of becoming a magician. The more Crown Prince thought about it, the more suitable he felt. Ning Shu wanted to scatter Crown Prince's ashes. Ning Shu shook his head. Sorry, I don't want to be Crown Princess. Didn't the Earl's father say that the royal family didn't like the Earl's residence? Could it be that Crown Prince couldn't find a candidate and just randomly found a girl he knew? Ning Shu rolled his eyes. Your Highness, I don't want you. Crown Prince was a bit disappointed. Then I'll ask Mia. Ning Shu, how is Mia supposed to reply? I want to say yes, but I'm not reserved enough. But if I say I don't want to, Crown Prince will think I'm rejecting him and give up. If that happened, Mia would probably cry her eyes out. Crown Prince was really a straight man. Could it be that Crown Prince wasn't straight and just randomly found a girl to marry? Ning Shu asked, Your Highness, don't you like Wakel? What? The prince's expression was a little horrified. Where did you hear these words, Miss Avril? Please don't spread these ridiculous rumors. Chapter 37-22. Ning Shu observed the Crown Prince's expression. He was shocked and confused. Clearly, the Crown Prince didn't understand why Ning Shu would link him to a man. Only a man and a woman could give birth to the next generation. A man and a man, the Crown Prince looked at Ning Shu. Miss Avril, you're also someone who's been troubled by rumors. Why do you have to create rumors so casually? Ning Shu laughed. The Crown Prince is angry. I've endured all kinds of rumors for a long time. It's good for the Crown Prince to have a taste of it. The Crown Prince instantly regretted coming to Avril for no reason. Avril had a sharp tongue and even spread rumors that he liked men. It was hard to imagine how this rumor would affect him if it really spread. If his father heard this rumor, the Crown Prince would have a brain. The Crown Prince only wanted to find a woman and get married quickly. The Crown Prince said to Ning Shu, Wakel and I didn't think this through carefully. We did believe a one-sided story and didn't do a detailed investigation. I apologize. Ning Shu tilted his head and looked at the Crown Prince. He didn't say anything. The Crown Prince said again, Don't go around saying things like this. I'm the Crown Prince. This concerns the dignity of the royal family. The Crown Prince used both the carrot and the stick, apologizing and threatening. Ning Shu laughed but still didn't say anything. The Crown Prince saw that she was so stubborn and wasn't afraid of her anymore. If she went around spreading rumors, the Earl's residence would be in trouble. The Crown Prince fled. Ning Shu looked at the Crown Prince's back and wondered if he had caught the Crown Prince's weakness. It was obviously fake news, but he kept saying it so many times that it seemed like it was real. What was the most poisonous thing in the world? Of course, a person's mouth was the most poisonous. Words could kill without leaving a trace. Ning Shu chuckled and followed the Crown Prince. When they arrived at the pharmacy class, the Crown Prince really came to look for Mia. Seeing the two standing together, Ning Shu suddenly realized that something was wrong. According to the Crown Prince's straightforwardness and Mia's reservedness, if these two were to have any grudges, the Count's residence would be implicated. Crown Prince, if you don't want to be my Crown Princess, then forget it. Mia, what's the meaning of this? He's asking me, but he's not willing to marry me. Ning Shu immediately jumped out and shouted to Mia, Mia, come here. Cousin has something to say to you. Mia hesitated for a moment and looked at the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince said, Go and look for your cousin first. The Crown Prince was a little worried. He couldn't even find a wife. Could it be that he really had to pick a wife from a pile of names? Mia walked up to Ning Shu and asked, "Cousin, what do you want to tell me?" Ning Shu asked, "Is Rita here?" "Cousin, are you still going to duel with Rita?" Seeing that the Crown Prince had left, Ning Shu said to Mia, "I'm just here to ask. Help me ask when she's free." By the time Mia reacted, the Crown Prince had already left. Until now, Mia still didn't understand why the Crown Prince was looking for her. Ning Shu exhaled and said to Mia, "How's your pharmaceutics going?" Mia immediately said, "It's okay. I like pharmaceutics a lot." Ning Shu nodded. "That's good." Ning Shu bade farewell to Mia and chased after the Crown Prince to the classroom. He said to the Crown Prince, "Your Highness, I have something to tell you." The Crown Prince nodded and walked out of the classroom. He asked, "What's the matter?" Ning Shu said, "Crown Prince, do you like Mia? Do you want Mia to be your Crown Princess? If you don't like her, don't tell her. She lost her parents and has no talent in magic. She has low self-esteem and is sensitive. Even if you tell her, you can't marry her. It'll be hard to deal with it if you keep thinking about her. You should know that Mia's status isn't enough to be the Crown Princess. At most, you won't marry Mia. There's no loss. You can just change to another Crown Princess. But Mia is different." Ning Shu didn't want the Earl's residence to be in a mess. The Crown Prince's casual question might cause Mia to be like a moth to a flame and take it for real. She didn't want any accidents to happen during her mission. The Crown Prince felt that the girl in front of him was so calm that it made him feel cold. But what she said was the truth. Ning Shu looked at the Crown Prince unkindly. "You haven't said anything, right?" The Crown Prince said, "I haven't had the chance to say anything." At this point, the Crown Prince also felt that he should find a familiar girl to marry. One was a female T-Rex, and the other was a girl who needed protection. The Crown Prince didn't have time to think about women. Ning Shu and the Crown Prince had reached a secret agreement. The Crown Prince wouldn't run to Mia and ask her if she wanted to be his Crown Princess. Even if the Crown Prince chose someone else to be his Crown Princess, Mia would at most be sad for a while. She wouldn't hold on to the charm of the past as a life-saving straw. If he asked her if she wanted to be his Crown Princess, would it be ambiguous? Would Mia be able to take it? Then the Crown Prince started to pay attention to the other girls in the class. Clearly, the Crown Prince only needed a wife and didn't care who this wife was. The Crown Prince did connect the names on the list with these girls. He also didn't rashly run to ask if she wanted to be his Crown Princess. However, the Crown Prince did know that the rumors that had been circulating before were indeed rumors after Avril bullied his cousin. Not to mention other things, Avril still cared for Mia a little. Sigh, mission completed. Do you want to leave the mission world? Dan Qing's voice sounded. Ning Shu thought for a moment. He had already left behind the ultimate martial arts. As for the rumors in school, they had already been violently suppressed by Ning Shu. He didn't fall behind in strength either. This mission could be considered completed. He could indeed leave. Ning Shu said, "Let's go." Ning Shu's body shook and he opened his eyes. He was already in the system space. Fa Tian jumped down from the sofa and pounced in front of Ning Shu. "You're back. I found some fruits in the void. Have a taste." Ning Shu tasted one. "It's very sweet." Little Mouse saw Ning Shu and only snorted as a greeting. Ning Shu didn't mind Little Mouse's sarcasm. He said to Fa Tian, "I have to do a mission soon. After I do a few more missions, let's go explore the void." "Ah, you're leaving again. Aren't you going to rest?" Fa Tian asked. "It's okay." Now that his spiritual power was strong, he didn't feel too tired. After clearing the mission inventory, he could focus on his own things. Fa Tian nodded. I understand. Ning Shu looked at Fa Tian's appearance. He was now in the form of a child. He didn't know when he would grow up. Clearly, there was still room for growth. He just didn't know how to let Fa Tian grow. Fa Tian had eaten the black energy body too. It didn't seem to have any effect. Probably because he didn't eat enough. The quantitative change had reached a qualitative change. Probably because he didn't accumulate enough energy. To view the new chapter of Zui, please go to mobile address. Chapter 37-24. Her hands and feet were tied. It was not because of the child, but because she was bound by the rumors. She was an orphan and had no power. She was pitiful. They had power, money, and status. They were too strong. The Earl replied to the Emperor, saying that his daughter, Sai, was a worrisome person. Anyway, he belittled Avril to the point that she was unbearable. Although the Emperor was unhappy, he let it go and asked the Crown Prince to choose again. The Crown Prince had a splitting headache. Did he have to choose again? Was he going to choose blindly? The Crown Prince could not understand. Couldn't he see those girls? What did father mean? Didn't you choose before? Emperor, oh, I don't want to. The Crown Prince, he knew it. When she went to school, the Crown Prince found Avril and asked, why not? When she saw the Crown Prince's face, his disdainful face flashed across Avril's mind. He was high and mighty, as if he was looking at trash. That gaze was deeply imprinted in her mind. It seemed to have become a nightmare. Every time she cultivated, in the dead of the night, those disdainful looks and all kinds of vicious words floated in her ears. It went deep into her bones like maggots. She wanted to forget all these things, but she could not. Avril wanted to laugh. He even asked if she was willing. Sorry, she was not willing. She was not willing even if she died. The Crown Prince looked at Avril and felt that Avril had changed a little. She was even colder and more disgusted with him. Her eyes were filled with deep disgust. What did he do to make Avril have such a strong opinion of him? Other than apologizing, what else could he do? The Crown Prince said, I'm sorry. I accept it, but it doesn't mean that I forgive you. This time, it was because things were under control. If not, she would have paid a price. No one knew what she had paid to be able to stand here now. She had even sold her soul. The Crown Prince casually found a Crown Princess and asked her why she should be the Crown Princess. She had to reject him. She was afraid that when she looked at the Crown Prince's face, those nightmares would haunt her forever. It was too scary. Those faces, those looks of disdain. The Crown Prince took a deep breath. I'm sorry, I'm very sorry. As the Crown Prince of a country, it was not easy for the Crown Prince to apologize like this. When Mia saw the Crown Prince and her cousin, she hesitated for a moment before walking over and greeting them. When Avril saw Mia, she only wanted to avoid her. As long as she stood next to Mia, there would be all kinds of rumors, and they were all directed at her. He didn't need to do anything or say anything, and the dirty water would automatically pour on him. Avril said, "You guys talk." She turned around and left. Mia was speechless. She felt that her cousin still didn't like her. Mia looked at the Crown Prince, bit her lips, and asked, "Is your Highness going to marry cousin?" The Crown Prince shook his head. "No, there's no such thing." There was a moment of joy on Mia's face. "You don't like cousin?" Crown Prince was speechless. How should he answer this? Mia asked again, "What kind of girl does the Crown Prince like?" Crown Prince was speechless. He didn't know. "I love magic and do chi." Mia lowered her head and looked at her feet. "Your Highness." When Mia looked up again, the Crown Prince's figure was already in front of her, causing the courage that she had worked so hard to muster to dissipate. Looking at the Crown Prince's back view, Mia was very sad. How could she get close to the Crown Prince? Did she have to achieve something? But she didn't know magic or Do Chi. How could she become a great person who was worthy of the Crown Prince? Did she have to become a great pharmacist? But it was too slow. The Crown Prince was going to have a Crown Princess soon. With her identity, if her parents were still around, there was still a chance, but, the Emperor saw that his son was about to become autistic, so he decided to hold a ball for his son to choose. He heard that the Emperor was going to hold a ball, and all the daughters had to attend. Mia also wanted to attend, but she didn't know how to tell her uncle. If she could dance with the Crown Prince at the ball, it would be good too. She had a wish. The chances of her becoming a princess consort were very small. The Earl looked at Mia and said, "You should go to His Majesty's banquet too. Someone will send clothes for you and your sister." Mia smiled. "Thank you, uncle." Seeing his niece like this, the Earl was afraid that she really liked the Crown Prince. The Earl didn't want his daughter to be involved in such a strange thing. His daughter was going to become a grand magus in the future and a mage god. With such talent, she couldn't be involved in such a strange thing. Mia asked again, "Is cousin going?" "His Majesty said that all the girls of the right age have to go," the Earl said. On the day of the banquet, Ariel and Mia entered the palace, dressed appropriately. There were many beautiful girls at the banquet, whispering to each other. Under the light of the fluorescent stones and candles, it was especially moving. Ariel was in a corner and didn't attract much attention. Mia didn't know anyone and could only follow beside her cousin. The music started, and the Crown Prince walked down the steps in his splendid attire. He was so handsome that all the girls present looked at him. The Emperor said, "Crown Prince, see for yourself." The Crown Prince had nothing to live for. The Crown Prince danced with a few girls, then walked to Ariel and Mia, and extended his hand. Mia reached out and put her hand on the Crown Prince's hand. The Crown Prince was stunned for a moment, then followed Mia to the dance floor. Ariel drank the dazzling wine and looked at the two expressionlessly. They were probably going to meet each other's eyes. After all, Mia was going to be the Crown Princess. Under the light, the slightly dressed Mia was dazzling, and people couldn't take their eyes off her. After the dance, the Emperor asked for the Crown Prince's opinion and told him that since it was announced in public, there was no room for negotiation. He had to think carefully. The Crown Prince's eyes darted between Ariel and Mia, and he hesitated for a while. All the girls present looked at the Crown Prince nervously, hoping that he would choose them and put in so much effort to perform in front of him. If she became the Crown Princess, she would be the queen in the future. She would be the mother of the country. Mia was also very nervous. Although she knew it was impossible, she still couldn't help but look forward to it. The Crown Prince opened his mouth and pointed at Mia. "I choose her to be my Crown Princess." Mia was stunned. She didn't expect this at all. Ariel's expression showed that she had expected this, and she chuckled. The Crown Prince's gaze swept across Ariel's face. Seeing her mocking expression, he frowned. The Emperor sighed. It was good to have a low status. Otherwise, she would be held hostage in the future. Mia covered her mouth. She was so happy that she almost cried. Ariel was also very happy. This way, Mia would be able to move out of the Earl's residence. She believed that her grandfather's family would definitely bring Mia over. To view the new chapter of ZUI, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3725. The Emperor was urging the Crown Prince to find a wife. The Crown Prince was annoyed. When he was young, his father had told him, "Son, cultivate hard. Strength is the foundation. Don't think about romance all day." He had been cultivating hard, but now he was being asked to find a Crown Princess. There was no excess in life. He really didn't know what kind of crown princess he should find. A crown princess didn't exist in his life plan for the time being. The crown prince said in despair, "Father, just choose a wife for me." If he had the time, he might as well spend it on cultivation. Besides, if he got married, the two of them would have to spend more time together. It would be a waste of time. He cultivated both magic and qi, so he needed even more time. The emperor said, "Choose whichever one you like." The crown prince, the crown prince pointed at the name list. Then this one, the one from the earl's residence. It's not good, right? The emperor said, "I really like this girl from the earl's residence. She's been chosen twice." The crown prince shook his head. "No, I'm not. Don't talk nonsense. I only know her. Rather than find someone I don't know, I'd rather find someone I know." The emperor said, "Since you like her, it's not impossible. It's just that the earl's status is too low. You have to find a daughter from a marquis." The crown prince waved his hand. "Forget it, there's no need. Let's wait for a while." "What's there to wait for? Choose this one." The crown prince felt a chill. "Father, are you serious?" The emperor said, "Of course. Choose this one." The crown prince shrugged. "Father, this girl has some grudges with me. She won't agree." He didn't know why the emperor was in such a hurry. The emperor asked, "Are you sure?" The crown prince asked, "Can I change?" The emperor said, "Sure." "Who do you want?" The crown prince said. "Up to you." At the dinner table, the earl looked at his daughter and sighed. The earl said, "You will be the crown princess." Avril was stunned. "What?" Mia was also stunned. "Cousin is going to be the crown princess?" The earl said, "The emperor told me his intentions, but he didn't say it explicitly." "Do you have such feelings for the crown prince?" Avril, haha. "Not at all." Mia put down her cutlery and said sadly, "Uncle, cousin, I'm full. I'm going back to my room." Avril's heart skipped a beat when she saw Mia's expression. Could it be that her cousin would steal her cousin's lover and become the crown prince's consort by hook or by crook? Avril didn't know why, but as long as it had something to do with Mia, she was like a box for rumors. All kinds of rumors would automatically find their way to her. It was so annoying. She was the one who had bullied Mia previously. Was she going to snatch her lover away from her now? Damn, TSK, he didn't know why. The count asked his daughter, "Do you want to be the crown princess? Do you want to? If you do, I will reply to the emperor." Avril shook her head. "I don't want to be the crown princess. Mia likes the crown prince." "Are you quitting because Mia likes the crown prince, or because you don't?" the count asked. Avril, "Firstly, it's because of Mia. I'm the unlucky one when I'm involved with Mia. Secondly, I don't like the crown prince. Previously, when I was framed in school, he also added fuel to the fire. Thirdly, I want to cultivate." There was nothing more frightening than strength. Avril felt the beauty of strength. Now, no one in school dared to say that she bullied Mia. She wasn't afraid of becoming the crown princess, but she didn't want to be involved with the crown prince. Previously, her reputation was in shambles and she was in such a sorry state. The count was silent for a moment. "It's probably because Mia is weak." "You said that Mia likes the crown prince." Avril said, "Father, didn't you see her expression just now?" The count frowned. "If you're sure, then I will reply to His Majesty. Don't regret it when the time comes." Avril scoffed. What was there to regret? After suffering so much pain from the rumors, she didn't want to be involved in the matter between Mia and the crown prince. With Mia's sad look, if she walked around the school, she would definitely be called a scheming bitch the next day. Meddling, third party, shameless. If she had the time to tear her crotch, Avril would rather cultivate and stabilize her state of mind. Otherwise, she would return to how she was before. It wasn't easy to start over. Avril said, "Does Mia have any relatives in her father's family? No grandparents?" It didn't make sense. Even if they were to raise her, it wouldn't be the turn of a sister from her mother's family. That was a bit too distant. Moreover, her grandparents were closer to Mia than they were. Avril roughly understood that as long as they stayed together, she would probably be the one to be compared and crushed into the mud. The only way was to stay away from her. Someone else was probably going to be unlucky. The Count said, "I didn't notice that." At that time, the guard came with Mia covered in blood and told her that her parents were dead. The Count's wife's heart was filled with pain and was filled with tender love for Mia. The Count also realized that Mia and his daughter seemed to be natural enemies. Mia didn't have to do anything. His daughter was just a filth. The kind of filth that couldn't be washed away. Should he just chase her away? When the time came, the Count's residence would be the big bad guy. The Count said, "I'll think of a way." Avril nodded. Fortunately, her father was on her side this time. Actually, her father had always been on her side. Unfortunately, there was a problem with her mentality. He told her not to argue with Mia, but she felt wronged. Why couldn't she scratch her? Why did she have to be tolerant? Just because she was weak, helpless, and pitiful. Don't be calculative with her. Why can't you be calculative? Now, Avril really didn't want to argue with her. She just wanted to not have anything to do with her. She didn't know what magic Mia had. Perhaps she could break it by increasing her strength. The stronger, the better. The Count said, "Since Mia likes the Crown Prince, let's fulfill their wish." Avril looked at her father faintly. Mia didn't say that she likes the Crown Prince. You've pointed it out. If the Crown Prince rejects and Mia is sad, it'll be your fault. Then you'll be the bad guy. The Count was speechless. This was really difficult to deal with. Avril said, "Father, please help me reject him. I don't want to be the Crown Princess." To be honest, her heart was filled with resentment toward the Crown Prince. How could they be together? There was also Wakel and that group of rich and powerful people. To be honest, it was a good idea to challenge them one by one. The Count was very irritated. He had a big family, but he was still controlled by a girl. Chapter 37-26. Neither party had thought of sending Mia to the Earl's residence. Why should they send her to the Earl's residence? But the Earl was still afraid. When she got married, the Earl's residence would have to worry about all sorts of things. In the end, she was just a niece. She would have to be busy with all sorts of things. What he was most afraid of was that something would happen midway and turn a good thing into a bad thing. Now the Earl knew that one couldn't be a good person rashly. Otherwise, one would be looking for trouble. It was best for Mia to stay far away from the Earl's residence. He didn't expect Mia to remember their good deeds. It was fine as long as she didn't miss them. It wasn't that the Earl was afraid. The power of a Grand Magus was there for all to see. But when he encountered something, it was like hitting cotton. Things were often like a wild dog that had broken out of its anus. The two parties couldn't come to an agreement and let Mia decide whose house she should stay in. Both parties tried their best to please Mia. She didn't know who to choose. So Mia went to ask her fiancé, the Crown Prince. They were already engaged and could be close. The Crown Prince was cultivating and was interrupted. He was told that his fiancé was looking for him. Fiancé? The Crown Prince was confused for a moment. What fiancé? Then he thought of Mia. Yes, Mia was his fiancé. When he went out, he saw Mia's red face. She was very cute. The Crown Prince sighed. The frustration from being interrupted dissipated a little. He asked, "Why are you looking for me?" Mia looked at the Crown Prince and told him about the recent events. Then she looked at the Crown Prince, hoping that he would give her an idea. The main thing was that Mia didn't want both sides to quarrel. Now that both sides saw each other, their faces darkened. If this continued, the peace-loving Mia would be very distressed. The Crown Prince was stunned. Just this? She called him out for this matter. You can go to whichever house you want. This was something that didn't need to be thought about. She was already the Crown Princess. She could do as she wished. She would suffer less if she stayed here. It would be more convenient for her to get married. He didn't know what to think about. If it really didn't work, he would let Mia's father buy a house here. It would be the same when she got married from that house. What was this big deal? The Crown Prince was very unhappy. Why was he disturbed by such a trivial matter? Mia could tell that the Crown Prince was unhappy and asked, "Your Highness, how should I choose?" "Crown Prince, as long as you're happy. You can go anywhere, it depends on your mood." Mia lowered her head and looked at her toes. "I'm here to ask you because I don't know which one to choose." "Crown Prince?" What was the meaning of this? Tell me what you're thinking. Which family do you want to stay in? I'll tell them. When you make your choice, just tell them that it's my idea. The Crown Prince finally came back to his senses. This fiancé of his probably meant that it was good for everyone. They didn't know who to choose, but they were also afraid that the loser would be angry and disappointed. In fact, the Crown Prince had already thought of a way to deal with this matter so that both sides would be happy. However, he did not want to waste time, so he directly used his status as a member of the royal family, and the others could only follow suit. As for whether others were happy or not, it was none of his business. However, with his fiancée's personality, she would be in the hands of others in the future. Usually, this kind of person who wanted to be good for both parties would end up in an awkward situation. After all, she was going to be the mother of a country in the future. She would have to face many noble ladies. With just a few words, she would be able to control Mia. At this moment, the Crown Prince was unhappy. Firstly, it was because his cultivation was disturbed. Secondly, the Crown Prince was a little afraid of Mia's personality. In the future, she would come to him for the slightest thing. As someone who cultivated both magic and martial arts, his time was very precious, okay? Mia got the attention of her fiancé and left happily. The Crown Prince returned to his room and continued to meditate. However, he could not get into the state no matter what. He was extremely frustrated and simply went to the courtyard to lift a huge rock. He lifted until he was drenched in sweat. He was still frustrated. On this side, Mia's matter was settled. She stayed at her maternal grandfather's house. The main thing was that her maternal grandfather's house was the Marquis residence. It was more convenient here. When the Crown Prince found out, he was even more frustrated. He felt that this lass was really annoying. Since she already had a choice in her heart, why did she have to use his name to make a choice? She wanted to be good for everyone. Should he be the bad guy for no reason? The Crown Prince did not care much about this reputation, but he was still a little unhappy. There was a subtle feeling of being used. This was the most annoying thing. The Crown Prince was clearly someone who was going to get married, but there was a gloomy look on his face. When Avril saw this, she laughed in her heart. Anyone who went against Mia would be asking for trouble. She did not know what was wrong with the Crown Prince, but his expression was so ugly. He was someone who was going to marry Mia. Perhaps he could get lucky. After that, Mia looked for the Crown Prince for some trivial matters. Actually, it was also because Mia wanted to see the Crown Prince. After they became engaged, the Crown Prince did not look for Mia. In school, the Crown Prince did not look for her. This way, Mia could not help but think that the Crown Prince was really too cold. Since the crown prince did not look for Mia, Mia could only look for him. After a few times, the crown prince was simply about to explode. It was all trivial matters. His patience had already reached the limit. Wasting his time made his mentality collapse. Every time he was disturbed, it took even longer for him to meditate again. The crown prince was afraid that he would explode from anger. He endured it and said to Mia, "In the future, if there is nothing important, don't look for me. I want to cultivate and meditate." Mia was about to cry. They were engaged. Couldn't she look for the crown prince for no reason? Every time Mia looked for the crown prince with a young girl's heart thumping, the crown prince's reaction was simply like being struck by lightning. How could it be like this? Mia looked at the crown prince with tears in her eyes. She questioned the crown prince, "Why did you choose me to be the crown princess if you don't like me? Then you might as well not choose me to be the crown princess. Since you chose me, we are engaged. Is it wrong for me to come and see my fiancé?" That's right. But it wasted the crown prince's time and affected his mentality. Mia was angry and did not want to be the crown princess. The crown prince sighed and entered the palace in the blink of an eye. He told his emperor that he was not suitable for Mia and told him everything that had happened recently. The emperor was speechless. He probably felt that he was really anxious and let his son find a random girl. Now, so many troublesome things had happened. Seeing his son's terrible expression, the emperor expressed that since he did not want this crown princess, so be it. Thus, the prospective crown princess became a countess. Of course, a countess was to make it up to Mia. Moreover, aristocrats had their own territories and large areas of farms and land. Aristocrats lived much better lives than commoners. To view the new chapter of Zoe, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3727. The Earl's residence also had a territory. As the Earl was a great magician and a respected magician, his territory was especially big and rich. When Mia received the news, she was completely dumbfounded. She was dumbstruck and didn't even move her eyeballs. Everyone in the Marquis residence was astonished. Wasn't she the crown princess? Why did it become an earl? Although an earl was an aristocrat, he couldn't be compared to the queen. Outsiders didn't know how much pain Mia was in. Hearing the sighs of the people around her, she felt extremely cold as if she had been frozen. That year, she fell into an ice cave and was so cold that she almost lost her life. Mia cried and went to look for the crown prince. The crown prince had also expected that Mia would come and look for him. He waited and didn't go to meditate. He was afraid that he would be interrupted halfway after finally entering meditation. That feeling was very unpleasant. In any case, the crown prince felt as if he had been constipated for a long time. His entire body was a little restless and he was very frustrated. Seeing Mia crying and looking for him, the crown prince wanted to turn and leave. Annoying, annoying, annoying. Faced with Mia's questioning, the crown prince only said that they weren't suitable. In order to make it up to Mia, he made her a countess. A girl without parents suddenly became a countess and even had a territory. She had reached the heavens in a single bound. However, Mia was in pain. Mia insisted, "What exactly is not suitable? What did I do wrong? I'll change." The crown prince said, "Don't come and look for me if there's nothing. Don't disturb my cultivation. I can't accompany you all the time. When I don't call for you, don't come and look for me. Can you do that?" Mia's face was as pale as a sheet. Are we still husband and wife? What Mia couldn't accept was that the crown prince didn't like her. If he liked her, he wouldn't be so cold and stiff. In the crown prince's heart, she wasn't as important as cultivation. If he liked her, he would compromise. The crown prince said, "Leave. Don't make things too ugly." Mia walked away like a zombie. Mia was probably the shortest crown princess to be. Then, all sorts of rumors spread in the school. Some belittled Mia, but more of them felt sorry for her. Mia looked too pitiful. She was thin, weak, and distracted. She was like a pear blossom that had been ravaged by the storm. They said that the crown prince had taken advantage of her and then abandoned her. There were also some people who secretly said that the crown prince was irresponsible. There were all kinds of rumors, and they were all secrets of the royal family. Ordinary people loved to gossip about the rich and powerful. When the crown prince heard these rumors, he was expressionless. What did they mean by him being irresponsible? What the hell? He said that he was a heartless man who had let down Mia, such a good girl. Mia is good, but she's too annoying. The crown prince, who was at the center of the rumors, had a gloomy expression. He didn't expect that he would cut off all ties with Mia. This was also compensation. In this life, Mia wouldn't have to worry about food and drink, and because of the countess, she might even be able to marry into a good family in the future. Even though she was once the future crown princess, this was a world where the strong were respected. There were many powerful magicians who did not care about the country or the emperor. Unless the country had a lot of powerful backing and a lot of powerful magicians. The title of crown princess to be was really nothing much. When Avril heard the news, she rolled around on the bed happily and hammered the bed with laughter. It was really karma. Let the crown prince have a taste of what it felt like to be casually mocked. In other people's mouths, he was really guilty and a bad person. Avril looked at the crown prince's ugly face every day. When she returned home, she could eat half an extra buckwheat bread. Since Mia was no longer the crown princess, Mia's father had returned to the family territory, and the Marquis residence wanted to send Mia back to the Earl's residence. The Earl's mouth twitched. What was the meaning of this? Oh, the Earl's residence deserved to raise this child. When the child was glorious, they took her away. Now that there was a problem with the child, they wanted to send her back. This table manners were too ugly. What the hell was this? Did they think that the Earl's residence was easy to bully? The Earl directly said with a compassionate expression, "Now that the child is sad, you directly sent her to my house. Isn't it obvious that you despise her? You were good to her before because she was the crown princess. Now that she's not the crown princess, you want to chase her away. This child must be very sad. Moreover, the Marquis residence doesn't lack food. Moreover, the child is an earl now." The Earl refused to send Mia back to the Earl's residence, but his words were for Mia's good and to take care of her feelings. In any case, she couldn't return to the Earl's residence. She couldn't disturb the family's cultivation. Their family of 3 were all magicians and needed to meditate to absorb magic elements. Who had the time to deal with this nonsense every day? The people from the Marquis residence, forget it, let her stay. Indeed, they were going to pick Mia up with great fanfare, but sending her back would take some time. Sigh. The crown prince was playing around. When Avril heard that her father refused to let Mia come back, she gave him a big smile. She couldn't get close to Mia. The best way was to stay away from her. If she argued with her, she would become more and more unlucky in the end, and things would get out of hand. She would also become more and more resentful. The more resentful she was, the more she wanted to get back at her. The more she wanted to get back at her, the more unlucky she would become in the end. The most depressing thing about her was that she didn't do anything to hurt you, but she would make you sink deeper into the mud. As long as you stayed away from Mia, the world was still very beautiful. Avril felt that if these rumors were blown out of proportion, Mia might even lose her position as the Earl. Thunder and rain were the grace of the monarch. The crown prince couldn't let people keep talking about him like this. It was only because she wasn't strong enough in the past that people pointed at her. In the face of absolute power, no one dared to offend the entire world and continue to blabber. Avril challenged many people in the name of promoting improvement. Avril, I don't like fighting, so good. Ning Shu talked to Fa Tian for a while, then asked Dan Qing to send her to do a mission. Dan Qing said, a large area of the plane is collapsing. All the mission takers who can deal with star stones and plane fragments have to go deal with the collapse. Ning Shu, do the mission. There were so many people who could deal with star stones and plane fragments. She'd better do the mission first. Dan Qing, everyone is going. It's more serious this time. It's a big accident with countless fragments. Everyone is going. You're probably the only one who still wants to do the mission. Ning Shu sighed. She wasn't surprised at all. This was something that would happen sooner or later. Holding Fa Tian's hand, she said, I'll take you to work. You're not going to do the mission? Fa Tian asked about Ning Shu's work. Ning Shu shook her head. I have more urgent things to deal with. Fa Tian said, you don't have to do the mission. I can help you absorb soul power. Chapter 37-28. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Fa Tian felt that if he went to the world of reincarnation and swung his whip, he could absorb a lot of soul energy and transfer it to Ning Shu. There was no need to stay in a plane for so long just for half of the soul energy. When Ning Shu heard Fa Tian's words, he couldn't help but sweat for the souls in the world of reincarnation. He said, don't worry about those souls in the world of reincarnation. I'm not doing this just to get the soul energy, it's also my job, my job. Oh, Heaven Punisher replied. Ning Shu brought Fa Tian to the place where the plane had collapsed. The scene was very messy. The air was filled with shards of debris. From afar, those planes looked like a huge cheese with a corner collapsed. It was more like a huge ant nest that had collapsed, and there were many ants trying to save the nest. This was the biggest plane accident that Ning Shu had ever seen. He could actually see the missing corner of the plane with his naked eye. To be able to see the missing corner of billions of planes, it could be seen how many planes had collapsed this time. To be more specific, it was like suddenly losing a finger. Some of those floating fragments streaked across the sky and then rushed into the nearby planes. If such fragments were not dealt with quickly and rushed into other planes, it would cause a huge impact on the plane's environment. A huge meteorite fell from the sky. One could imagine how big of an impact it would have on the environment. It could even change the living environment of a plane. There were too many fragments. Even if all the people who could pick them up came, it was still too late. Ning Shu stretched out countless vines. These vines spread out with Ning Shu as the center and started to pick up the fragments. There were so many fragments. Just seeing the fragments was enough. As for dealing with the star rock, it was probably not that important. Ning Shu moved slowly and stretched out more vines. Fa Tian also took out a bag and picked up the fragments and put them into the bag. This time, not only did all the big shots move out, even the army was mobilized. This accident could be considered as a serious injury to his bones. Sea of Laws. Ning Shu glanced around and saw Fragrant Wind Guy. Beside him was Imo Ming, who was busy. Uncle Chang and granduncles had all taken action. Dust drifted in the air as everyone busied themselves. Ning Shu didn't even know how many fragments he had picked up. He felt like there were so many fragments that he could never finish picking them up. Even if they hurried, there were still many fragments that rushed into the planes that were still intact. It was likely that the surrounding planes would have some residual effects. Ning Shu was thinking about making props, so he slowly moved to Uncle Zhang's side. Of course, he didn't forget to use his vines to pick up the fragments. Ning Shu greeted his eldest uncle and asked, "What's the reason this time? Why is it so serious?" Eldest uncle said, "There are all kinds of reasons why a plane collapses. I don't know. This time, it was probably because we didn't handle it in time." Ning Shu didn't mind, and he wanted to ask about making items. For example, the bag in their hands had a lot of space inside. Ning Shu couldn't do it, nor did he know the principle behind it. It was probably similar to the meson space in the world of cultivation. Ning Shu wanted to learn these things. However, it wasn't good to ask such questions. Ning Shu decided to buy some materials to learn first. When the organization was destroyed, these things couldn't be exchanged in the system shop. Ning Shu felt that the Sea of Laws could still last for a while, which was enough time for Ning Shu to learn. Didn't His Excellency and the others say that it wouldn't be a problem for the Sea of Laws to last for millions of years? A few million years. Ning Shu didn't even know if she could live for a few million years. How long was a few million years? However, Ning Shu felt that it was impossible for him to live for millions of years. When he approached the Sea of Laws, he couldn't feel any vitality. Uncle Zhang clearly felt that Ning Shu was being nice and wouldn't talk to him normally. He said, "Is the puppet broken again?" Ning Shu had placed the puppet that Uncle Zhang was talking about in Water City. He hadn't cared about it for a long time, and the puppet hadn't given him any news either. If Uncle Zhang hadn't mentioned it, Ning Shu would have forgotten about it. He still said, "No, it's fine." Uncle Zhang said, "Use it slowly." Ning Shu turned his head and moved away from Uncle Zhang. And he appeared in front of Uncle Zhang and said, "Slut, get some more bags." Ning Shu. What kind of name was that? Slut. Was it a nickname? Uncle Zhang was expressionless. He let the people beside him handle it and looked at he gloomily. "If you shout like that again, I'll kill you." And he didn't care about Uncle Zhang's cold face at all and rushed away. Uncle Zhang looked at he's back with murderous intent. Fragrant Wind really liked to court death. Ning Shu said, "Your relationship is really tense." Uncle Zhang chuckled. "He's just jealous of me. He's jealous that I can fuck women, but he can't." Ning Shu, Uncle Zhang, some people pretend to be serious. I like women, and I like to fuck the women I like until the end of time. It's none of his business. Ning Shu, that he suddenly thought of a perverted love for dolls. Could it be that Uncle Zhang and his inflatable doll? Ning Shu held Fa Tian's hand and moved away from Uncle Zhang. Fa Tian didn't want to hear such words that were not suitable for children. Could it be that Uncle Zhang was hiding a doll with consciousness? Doing things with the women he liked, which meant that Uncle Zhang actually had a body too? Ning Shu didn't know which people in this organization had bodies and which didn't. Fa Tian had already picked up several bags of shards. Ning Shu saw that he was tired and said, "If you're tired, don't pick them up. Take a rest." Fa Tian was still a child. Fa Tian didn't stop and said, "When we're done, we can do our own things. Every piece we pick up is one less piece." Ning Shu asked, "What do you want to do?" Fa Tian said, "Anything is good. It's better than picking this up." Fa Tian felt tired after picking up the shards endlessly, let alone the others. Ning Shu had a few thousand more hands than the others, but he needed to control them with his spiritual power. To control a few thousand hands, it consumed a lot of spiritual power. Ning Shu also felt a little tired, but there was nothing he could do. He could only persevere. Moreover, Ning Shu felt that the collapse of these planes was because the Sea of Law was unable to provide energy. Secondly, it might be because the Sea of Law was saving itself. Originally, the existence of these planes would consume the power of the Sea of Law. Without these planes, the burden on the Sea of Law would be less. There was a sad feeling of losing one's arm to survive. Ning Shu felt that the Sea of Law was also quite bitter. It supported so many planes, and there were two little ghosts that crawled out of its stomach. The little ghosts still had to absorb power from the Sea of Law. TSK, Ning Shu felt that the Sea of Law was like an old mother who had her bones and marrow sucked. Ning Shu glanced at the busy grand uncle. His current situation was very difficult. It was like the terminal stage of cancer. Whether he treated it or not, death was inevitable. End of chapter. You're tuning into the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.